everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If you could stay standing for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Mr. Hutton, for the last time, would you like to do the roll call?
Thank you, Madam Morgan. Councillor Doncaster. Present. Councillor Donahue. Here. Councillor Emo. Present. Councillor Farr. Present. Councillor Keller. Here. Councillor Kingsbury. Present. Councillor Love. Present. Councillor McKay. Here. Councillor Miller. Here. Councillor Wharton Murphy. Sorry. Here. Councillor Peckett. Present. Councillor Reed. Here. Councillor Reinbold. Present. Councillor Robinson. Present. Councillor Stack. Here. Councillor Sweet. Present. Councillor Wisniewski-Moore. Here. Thank you, Madam Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Hutton. At this time, I'll ask, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none. Can I get an adoption of the minutes for our August 29th meeting? Moved by Councillor Wisniewski-Moore, seconded by Councillor Peckett. Any errors or omissions? Councillor Love?
Yes, I identified to Ms. Brent that we need to use camera for personal matters, but an identifiable individual, not an acquisition or disposition of land.
Good catch. So can we have a friendly amendment for that? You're the mover and the seconder are fine? Excellent. Thank you for that. All those in favor? Excellent. Welcome to all the family and friends and guests we have here today. This is quite something for Mr. Hutton's retirement. As we gather in chambers this morning, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of council and our community that we are meeting today on traditional territory of the First Nations. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history. We are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. Members of County Council, during the month of September, I attended 12 meetings on county business. During the month, I continued to take Cogeco segments on the municipal election and the Ontario East Municipal Conference. On Friday, September 7th, 2018, we held the 14th annual Warden's Golf Tournament held at Whitetail Golf Course in Eganville. It was certainly a great day to be out on the course, and congratulations to the sweet team who took first place. From September 12th to the 14th, I attended the Ontario East Municipal Conference held at the NAV Centre in Cornwall, Ontario. This was a well-attended conference and a great opportunity to network, and we had the opportunity to hear from the Honourable Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. On Saturday, September 22nd, I toured the Calabogie area to witness the damage caused by the tornado that hit that area. While the damage is overwhelming for some, and there continues to be a lot of work to be done, no lives were lost in Renfrew County. On September 26th, I will be attending the Women Who Work event at Bonashir Manor. I will remind those assembled here of the following: the County of Renfrew, experience our history, share our future. This concludes my address for this session of County Council. Since we are going to wait for the festivities until 11 o'clock, I'm going to move ahead with the agenda. Mr. Hutton, is there any correspondence?
All correspondence have been forwarded to the appropriate committee member.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the health report, and I will turn this over to Chair Wisniewski Moore, please.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Members of County Council, we, your Health Committee, wish to report and recommend as follows. Information item number 1 is the resident population. Number 2 is the Lynn wait list information. 3 is the Community Paramedic Secretariat. Number 4 is the charity golf tournament, and I want to congratulate them for raising money for such a very good charity. Number 5 is the Sierra team. 6 is the Lynn Board of Directors seek public input. Number 7 is the Personal Support Worker Education Fund for the long-term care. And number 8 is expressions of gratitude, and I want to congratulate both the Manor and the Lodge. It's always nice to for them to bring those letters forward so the committee and county council can see the gratitude that families have for those both homes. Number 9 is fundraising, and it's the first bullet is the Fiddle Fest, and congratulations, they raised $1,350. The second bullet is Women Who Work. And the last bullet is the gala, and I think there's still tickets for sale.
Yes.
Okay, so anybody wants to go to that, there's tickets for sale. So all of which is respectfully submitted by myself as chair, committee members Doncaster, Donahue, Kingsbury, Love, Murphy, and Reed.
Thank you. We will move back to information item number 1. Comments, questions, concerns? Number 2. Number 3, the paramedic secretariat. Number 4, the charity golf tournament. 5, the Sierra team. Number 6, the Lynn. Number 7, PSW support work. Number 8, again, congratulations to both the Manor and the Lodge. And number 9, the fundraising. The report as a whole. Can I get a mover?
I so move, Madam Warden.
Thank you. All those in favor? All right, we will move on. Turn this over to Chair Sweet, please, with the development and property report.
Thank you very much, Madam Warden, members of County Council. We here Development and Property Committee wish to report and recommend as follows. These are information items, but the first item is the Planning Division Activity Tracker, which can be found on page 14. Entrance signs and pictures of those entrance signs and the new entrance signs for the county of Renfrew are updated. You can be found pictures of them on page 15 and 16. I think you'll agree that they certainly look very modern and very now type of signs that are at the entrances to the community. I just to recognize that the poles which were donated by Councillor Wisniewski-Moore's family are still in place. We just simply they changed the boards on there to reflect a more modern type of initiative.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, item number 3 you can see there is the timber property study, which will complete a little bit later on and bring forward under the new council when it's duly erected, and it could potentially have some budget ramifications. Still looking at number 4 is the International Plumbing Match and the Rural Expo. Still looking for and still haven't given up on finding a location within Renfrew County to host this. Some challenges with that. The staff are currently working to see if they can make sure that this event, which was last held in 1994, I believe, and a huge success here. So we can certainly put it together. It's the facilities that are a bit of a challenge to find, and we're still working on it. Taste of the Valley, there are 3 you can see there. Deep River, Armfire, and Cobden, the wrap-up, which is always a big success, these Taste of the Valley initiatives. Item number 6, the OSOM conference, which we are hosting here in 2019. I did attend the annual conference where we were advised of what the process was going to be all about. and they sort of dropped this situation on us. And this is a change from what has happened as far as the ozone conference is concerned in the past. It's now a hybrid type model being run by AMO in conjunction with ourselves going forward. And I was somewhat surprised and caught a little bit because this was never discussed when I originally made the pitch to get the ozone conference here. And I think Mr. Morrow would agree with that. He was in Windsor when we did this. And that's the very last paragraph. Committee was made aware of the new requirement of $5,000 for hosting this event. So this was new to us. However, we're not taking that at this point in time. We're going to have a chat with AMO and the group there, because this was not something that we expected. Item number 7, Renfrew County Community Futures Corporation. You see the winner, $100,000 winner for Renfrew County. This is kind of like a Dragon's Den type of initiative. And so congratulations to Riverwood Acoustics of the town of Renfrew for being the big winner of that, $100,000. Excellent for them. Item number 8 is the RED Fund, the Rural Economic Development Fund. They announced that it's now in place. 50-50 split type thing. The Ontario Highlands Tourist Organization, you'll see there, is having their annual tourism conference in Haliburton, pardon me, on October the 29th. That's an information item. Item number 10 is the seed plant closure initiative that was going on. You can see a letter from the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. Steve Clark wants to have another look at this particular situation. That letter is on page 18. Fall spraying of noxious weeds and hazardous plant. The notice of that is on page 19. The resolution, digital raster acquisition project, the Great East. You see the resolution number there, DPCC 1809, 72, moved by the chair, second by committee, that County Council recommends that the Chief Administration Office sign the letter of intent with the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry for the Grade 3 project. This is a process that's used extensively by staff and by lower tier municipalities and developers, etc. This is an important initiative going forward. The cost, as you can see on page 12, about 40 to 20, between 26 and $40,000. And bylaws, under bylaw 13, County of Renfrew official plan amendment number 29. Resolution number DPCC 1809, 73, moved by chair and second by committee. The County Council pass a bylaw to adopt amendment number 29 to the official plan of the County of Renfrew. Warden, do you want me to read the whole thing, or do you just, it's a page and a half long. Okay. And there is an addendum, Warden, it's the janitorial contract bylaw item number 14, resolution number DPCC 180979, moved by the chair, second by committee. The County Council pass a bylaw to enter into an agreement with the County of Renfrew and CDI Services out of Ottawa, Ontario, for the provision of janitorial services for 7 and 9 International Drive in the amount of $290,235 plus HST for the period 1st of November 2018 to October the 31st, 2021. The existing contract, as it says in the background, expires on October the 31st of this year. All of which is submitted by myself as chair, committee members Eamon, Farr, Keller, McKay, and Murphy.
Thank you. We'll move back. Information item number 1. Number 2, the entrance signs. Councillor Emo.
Yes, thank you. Having had the opportunity to drive by them a number of times in the last 4 or 5 years, and then more recently, it's a very nice refresh. And the other ones had, over time, faded and gotten slightly darker than we probably wanted. So this is a nice look, and again, it retains the traditional nature of our community, which is our connection to the lumbering and forest industry. So it's a great job, and I'm glad to see it.
Thank you, Councillor Wisniewski-Moore.
Yes, I want to thank for the nice fresh. When I called my brothers, I was the warden that time, and I called my brothers and I said, I need all these trees, and they said, you're crazy. These are expensive pieces of wood that you're asking for. I said, just think of the legacy we can put forward for our dad, who was in, the logging business for 55 years. But anyways, thank you for the fresh look. It looks great, and I'll tell my brothers that it's still being appreciated by all. Thank you.
Yes, I was really happy to see them and see that the logs were still being used, even though we replaced the signs. Anything further? We'll move on to number 4, the plowing match. Number 5, Taste of the Valley. Number 6, the OSUM Conference. Number 7, Community Futures. Councillor Emo.
Yes, thank you. That was as I spoke in committee, that was a great event where we had a number of companies advancing technology and processes. As you see, one is a hanging garden. Essentially, you can put it on the back of your door. The Riverwood Acoustics is a wireless, hi-fi, smart speaker with used in wood dredged up from the bottom of the Ottawa Valley, or River, sorry, the Ottawa Valley, the Ottawa River, and so it's quite an attractive look. Others had nanotechnology they were using for various applications. Some were telecommunications. So it was. I went to the first event in June, and Jamie Renfrew did a great job of keeping the excitement going. There were 3 judges from out of the county with different specialties for startups and financing and business plans and operations, and they were the judges. And well, they brought it down to 4. The 4 went off to make 2 more presentations, I believe, and the final winner was Riverwood Acoustics. And I think it's a great contest, and the CFTC deserves a lot of credit because I think it's a risky thing for them to have done. Their very first year to suddenly say we're going to do this. They brought the idea in from Northumberland, CFTC, and they were assisted by them, but it was I think it was a good risk, a brave risk, and the right risk for them to take. And I know that at committee we asked the board to send a strong letter of endorsement, and I think they'll proceed with it again next year. Just from the conversation that I have chair, and so it's a really great thing. And I hope we have more companies and startups from Renfrew County next year ready to take on that challenge. But it's a really great thing to foster development in the industry. And of the 11 or 12, I think, as a non-professional sitting there watching them, I think we're going to see probably 8 of those that will really take off in the future. So it's a nice feeder system for us.
Excellent, thank you. Anything further? The Red Fund. Councillor Donahue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So a technical question. When do the red allocations, when are they announced, when are they awarded?
Mr. Kelly, do you want to take this?
Thank you, Warren, and through you to Councillor. It's anticipated about 3 months, so the deadline is September 28th. We anticipate within 3 to 4 months of hearing the dollar, so likely the early part of 2019.
Thank you. Anything further? The Tourism Summit, the seed plant closure. Number 11, the fall spraying. Councillor Donahue.
Thank you once more, Madam Chair. Acknowledging that I was absent in April, perhaps, is this the first spraying, or was there a spraying earlier in the year? The reason I'm asking is I'm sure it's probably similar across the county. The wild parsnip does seem to be making advance, but I know that in my community in Admast and Bromley, it's now, certainly the wild parsnip has moved beyond, it is in the seed stage. And I'm wondering what the efficacy of the spraying at this time of the year is anticipated, or if there was a previous spraying.
Mr. Kelly.
And through you, Board. This is the first spray of the year. It's actually later than we anticipated. We had to wait, I think it was an additional week or 2 from the minister to sign the order to spray. There's a bit of a concern that the frost is coming, so we're trying to get out ahead of it right now. but it still will work. It's still germinating at least enough that spraying will make a difference for next year.
Supplementary?
Thank you. Yes, supplementary. So given the delay, I'm assuming this is a much less than ideal timing for the spraying, even though it is going to have an efficacy so long as it's there before the frost. But is it anticipated to begin the process much sooner than this time next year?
No, it would still be the same timing in September, roughly late August, early September.
Thank you. Anything further? We'll move on to resolutions. The drape. Oh, Councillor Wisniewski more.
No, I want to talk about drape. Yep, okay, go ahead.
I read this and I was laughing because it was Mr. Hutton who came to county council to convince us to take phase 1 back many years ago. And I remember him, being adamant that this was a really a good thing for the county of Renfrew. And he had to ask us for $40,000. And, I remember there was lots of questions and hesitation. So I just laugh at the irony that Mr. Hutton, you're leading, or hopefully this will pass today, that we'll go to number 3, but it was you that took the initiative to bring it forward and convince us to go ahead. And it's been a wonderful program, so I hope that County Council supports phase 3.
Thank you. Mr. Hutton, do you want to say something?
No, I appreciate those comments because it's something new. It does take a little bit of time to convince, but this program is worth its weight in gold. These photos are phenomenal in terms of what our staff can do, what our local municipalities can do. In fact, talking to some of our elected, what our elected are using it for. So thanks for those comments, Councillor Wisniewski.
Thank you, Councillor Emo.
Speaking of new, whatever happened to the voting system?
Can I take a minute there?
Yeah.
Just to explain to some of those councillors that maybe weren't around the table then, 8.5 years ago when I became CAO, I wasn't too keen on a written recorded vote system, as Councillor Emo well knows, and I proposed an electronic voting system that County Council didn't quite look so favorably upon, so thank you.
And it has never worked, not once. You can count faster on an abacus. Okay. Moving on to bylaws, the official plan amendment and the janitorial contract. The report is, Councillor Wisniewski more.
I was just, again, I'm an old timer, I've been here a long time, but I was looking at the activity under, the severances and all that, and I remember the day when we have like 120 severances. So I'm looking and there's like 12, is that just the trend, is that just that we're kind of running out of, because that was our lifeblood, when we had all these severances and growth. So I just see such a decline, and I just wondered if that's the trend.
Thank you, Warden, through you. I would suggest, and my 2 planner colleagues are with me in the room as well, it's getting these 2. Jim and Paul, my boss and boss to be, who have also done my job. So they, I think they would attest that the rules for severance have gotten harder over the years and getting harder by the minute. And that being said, it's just a cyclical in nature, and we'll see where things go in the future.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. And the report as a whole. Can I get a mover, please?
Just to go back to the planning activity, this is just for August. I think it would be important when we see the year-to-date initiative as far as all of the severances, etc. And I think that'll throw a light on the number of actual severances that are happening within the county. I would be pleased to move the report.
Councillor Wisniewski, more?
I guess, I appreciate the explanation, Bob. It's just, I remember in August, that was our heavy duty time, that's all, I know that it's gonna look better, but I just remember we had a lot more severances at this time of year than I'm seeing there. So I'm hoping that at the end of the year, those numbers are high, so thank you, Chair Sweet.
But it really is more difficult now, and I appreciate Mr. Kelly's comments. The harder the province makes it on us, the less severances we're going to have, right? All right, now can I get a mover, please?
So moved.
Excellent. All those in favor? Okay. Still have some time here, so I will turn this over to Chair Peckett with the Operations Committee report.
Thank you, Warden Murphy. Members of County Council, we, your Operations Committee, wish to report and recommend as follows. Under the information, you'll notice the very first item is label number 2. That's just a typo. It's actually number 1, of course. Table is a letter dated August 13th, 2018 from the Ministry of Transport for a report of environmental assessment for the section of Highway 17 between Haley Station and Mead Hill. This is a report that's issued annually in order to ensure that the environmental assessment remains current. Item 2 is the monthly treasurer's report, which is tabled for your information and also includes anticipated cost projections to the end of the year. Item 3 is the monthly project status report, which is tabled for your information. Item 4, under PWC 2018-05 culvert replacements on County Road 65, Centennial Lake Road. Committee approved contract number PWC 2018-31 submitted by Cranes Construction Limited, Maberly, Ontario for the culvert replacements on County Road 65, Centennial Lake Road in the amount of $142,715 plus HSTV approved. The information is there for you, and just as a side note, there are sufficient funds to complete the project as planned. Under resolutions, number 5, County Road 51, Pedawala Boulevard Expansion Project, resolution number OPCC 180976, moved by Chair, second by Committee. The County Council approved engagement of global public affairs at a cost of $8,250 per month for 3 months to provide assistance in the consultations with federal and provincial government officials regarding funding for the County Road 51 Pedawala Boulevard Expansion Project. Background is there for information that we have in the past used global public affairs, has been engaged by the county. Item number 6, fire communication system resolution number OPCC 180977, moved by Chair, second by Committee. The County Council give consideration to upgrading the county-owned portions of the fire communication system as part of the 2019 budget, and that subject to budget approval, a request for a proposal be issued in 2019 for upgrades to the fire communication system, and further that subject to budget consideration that the fire communication system upgrades proceed in 2019. There's considerable amount of background information there for you. Under bylaws, bridge posting bylaw, resolution number OPCC 180978, moved by Chair, second by Committee, that bylaw 19-17 restricting the weight of vehicles passing over bridges in the County of Renfrew be repealed, and that the County of Renfrew pass a new bylaw for the same purpose with updated load restriction as shown in Schedule A. Background is there. This is for Old Highway 62 is concern, also known as the Bournemouth Bridge, has been monitored regularly by county staff since it was established as a critical watch structure in 2016. Based on the levels of deterioration noted on structural elements of Old Highway 62 Bridge, J.L. Richards has recommended that the County of Renfrew consider closing the bridge to traffic. Alternatively, should the county wish to have the bridge remain open to traffic, J.L. Richards has recommended that a single load posting of 4 tons and a speed limit of 20 kilometers per hour be enforced on the bridge. J.L. Richards also feels that the effort should be made to keep traffic away from the east side of the bridge when traveling over it. In addition to imposing these restrictions, J.L. Richards recommends that county staff continue to monitor the bridge for deflection every 3 to 4 months. All of which is respectively submitted by myself as chair, committee members Kingsbury, Lowe, McKay, Miller, Murphy, and Randall. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move back to information item number, it says 2, but it should be 1. The monthly treasurer's report. The status report. Councillor Stack.
Thank you. I don't know if the chair or the director maybe, and I certainly have no ulterior motive for this question, but maybe Steve wants to give us a summary on what kind of surplus we could expect. I took a look at these charts and numbers, but you know, I hate to admit to my age in any way, but it's pretty tough to read that stuff on the screen. Maybe an intent to hide some of it, I don't know.
Now Steve is really retiring.
Curious where, I know in the beginning of the year we got some really good pricing, and I'm just curious where we're at.
Mr. Boland.
Certainly, Warden, through you to County Council. So we're looking at a surplus of approximately $2.2 million at the end of this year, and a large portion of that is really attributable to 2 projects. One is the delays on the Madawaska River Bridge in Arnpark, where we had anticipated an expenditure of $1.5 million, and the other is relative to the Cameron Culvert on Osborne Street, and we're anticipating an under expenditure there, essentially of the entire project, $871,000. So the majority of that is those 2 projects. The other projects we got good pricing on, as Councillor Stack has pointed out. Excuse me. However, we also had approval to extend a couple of projects to use up some of that those other savings that we saw on the other projects.
Supplementary.
I heard the 1.5 and then I heard 71. I didn't get the first digit, but
Sorry, 1.5 million was budgeted for on the Madawaska River Bridge. We don't anticipate spending all of that. In fact, we'll have a surplus of approximately $1.25 million on that project alone. And then the Cameron Culvert on Osborne Street, we had budgeted $900,000, and we expect to have a surplus almost the entire amount, $871,000 on that project. So those 2 projects alone make up virtually the entire surplus.
I mean, those projects, those monies will be expended there though eventually. That's
I would anticipate so, Warden, through you to Council, that those projects will need to be brought forward in subsequent years.
Thank you. And Burnstown Road is fantastic now.
Thank you.
I think that was a good move to extend that project all the way to Fraser Road. So thank you for that. Moving on, anything further on the status report? Number 4, the culvert replacements. Number 5, Petawawa Boulevard. Number 6, the fire communication system. Councillor Donahue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So when we last visited the fire communications 2 years ago, perhaps, I elicited, I think, a great deal of response, maybe from each of the lower tier municipalities. I know certainly ours did. There were 4 recommendations put forward with respect to moving forward with fire communications. I'm presuming that those recommendations that came forward from the lower tier municipalities that are responsible for firefighting will be incorporated into how we are moving forward.
Mr. Boland or Ms. Chief Nolan?
Thank you, Warden. And I may defer to Chief Nolan as well for some information. Yes, we would be incorporating those recommendations in the RFP that will go out subject to County Council's approval in 2019. The intention is to build a system, if we can, that would allow both the existing users in their existing analog world to operate, as well as those users that have moved into a digital world in terms of communication. So thus the recommendation that a multiplex system be incorporated so that we have some transferability and operability over the longer term.
Thank you. Anything further? Moving on to number 7, the bridge posting bylaw. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Warden. I did read with surprise the condition of the Bourne Road Bridge that's deteriorated to such an extent. Orange Valley was unaware that it was at this point. Certainly in the past, Mr. Rowland and his staff have come and consulted with the French Valley on the issue, and I would just encourage his successor to also do the same, because Warnboro Bridge is located in the hamlet of Alice, and removing that bridge would basically cut that little community in half. So I just would ask that whoever takes Mr. Rowland's place to continue to consult with French Valley.
Thank you. Yes, there was a lot of discussion about this little bridge. It is, anything further? The report as a whole. Can I get a mover, please?
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor? And now I will turn this over to Chair Robinson with the Social Services Committee report.
Thank you very much, Warren. I was unable to attend the meeting, and Vice Chair Councilor Reinhold will present the report.
Thank you. Councilor Reinhold.
Thank you, Madam Martin. Members of County Council, we, your Social Services Committee, wish to report and recommend as follows. Item number 1, under information, is the 2017-2018 Renfrew County Social Housing Registry waitlist stock comparison. And you'll note that it's up slightly compared to July of last year. Item number 2, child care stats. 2017-2018 child care fee subsidy statistics comparison. You'll note that the numbers there again have gone up. I don't know how we can ever be able to hold these numbers down. But, seems to be more and more issues out there. Item number 3, Ontario Worst Caseload Stats. It's the 2017-18 monthly caseload comparison. And you'll see it is down slightly by about 0.5%. Item number 4 is the rent increase guideline for 2019. Item number 5 is the Deep Urban Area Family Enrichment Network, which is FEN, and the information is attached to that. And item number 6 under resolutions, end of operating agreements between Pettawa Housing Corporation, resolution number SSCC 180961, moved by chair, seconded by committee. If the County of Renfrew continues to support the Pettawa Housing Corporation, further, that staff be directed to develop a funding agreement that will serve as a template for the continued support of not-for-profit housing providers with operating agreements to expire over the next 10 years. And further, that staff are directed to bring draft funding agreements to committee and county council for review and approval. And the background is attached on that. Item number 7, Opeongo Nonprofit Housing Corporation. Resolution number SSCC 180962, moved by chair, seconded by committee, that staff develop for further consideration an implementation plan required to transition the Opeongo Nonprofit Housing Corporation portfolio into the Renfrew County Housing Corporation. And further, that staff review the financial and budget implications of the transition to the Renfrew County Housing Corporation and County of Renfrew. Background is there. Under bylaws, item number 8, amendment to bylaw 50-17, new licensed home child care agreement, resolution number SSCC 180963, moved by chair, seconded by committee, that bylaw number 50-17, authorizing the County of Renfrew to enter into an agreement with the licensed home child care service provider, be amended to enter into an additional agreement with Kate Somerville and Byron Pryor. Background is there. Item number 9, Child's Paradise Daycare Center, new not-for-profit operating unit, resolution number SSCC 180964, moved by chair, seconded by committee, that bylaw number 13-15, authorizing the warden clerk to enter into a contract agreement with licensed child care providers for the purpose of child care services within the County of Renfrew, be amended to include a fee subsidy agreement with Child's Paradise Daycare Center. And resolution number SSCC 180965, moved by chair, seconded by committee, And bylaw number 1415 to authorize entering into agreements with child care agencies and recreation programs for special needs resource and funding. Be amended to include a special needs agreement with Child Care Paradise Daycare Center for the purpose of supporting children with special needs. And item number 10, addendum. The 2018 Child Care Ontario Transfer Payment Agreement with Ministry of Education was resolution number SSCC 180968, moved by chair, seconded by committee, that the county pass a bylaw authorizing the warden and clerk to execute the 2018 Child Care Ontario Transfer Payment with the Ministry of Education, reflecting the funding allocation provided to the county of Renfrew for 2018, and the bylaw number 24-18, and amending bylaws 68-18 and 78-18 be repealed. And this is brought by chair, co-chair myself, John Randall, Debbie Robinson as chair, Peter Himmel, Deborah Farr as teller, Mr. Murphy, Mr. Reed, and Mr. Stein.
Thank you. We'll move back to information item number 1. Number 2, the child care stats. Councillor Stack.
Yes, I'm just looking at the integrated coordinated stats, and we had a brief discussion with social services about this, and it's the number and the effort gone into dealing with the special needs clients in childcare. And I remember, I don't know how long ago, when Leaps and Bounds opened in Renfrew, some of the parents approached me about the inclusion of special needs in daycare. And I had some talks with Ms. Malville there, and I just wanted today to congratulate her staff. To think that over that period of time, those special needs kids are not anything special in this process. They're just part of the whole process, the planning, the funding, everything, and it works very smoothly. And it's one issue that I've been able to just sort of let go over the last few years. So they've done a great job in that.
Thank you. I'm glad our social services team is here. Anything further on the child care? Number 3, OW. Number 4, the rent increase. Number 5, the Deep River. Oh, lots of people. All right, so I've got Councillor Doncaster and then Councillor Robinson, please.
Thank you, Warden Murphy. I just wanted to commend the Social Services Department and the committee for looking at this. Being the time of the cycle that we're in right now, I certainly have the opportunity of speaking with a lot of people, and it makes clear that this is a very important program that was run in the past in North Renfrew, and that there is a really high demand for that. So I just want to, I know that Mr. Morrow is focusing on this, and I really just want to make sure that this stays on the radar, that this program is reinstated, and if we can find a provider locally, that would be ideal. But just to the department and the committee, that this is a really important program, and we need to continue to focus on it. Thank you very much for all the efforts so far.
Councillor Robbins.
Thank you, Warden. Just to continue on with Councillor Doncaster's comments, I did want to publicly acknowledge the work of the Director Paul Morrow, in particular the Manager of Children's Services, which is Judy Melville. She's sitting in the back here. This is an excellent program, and they've spent a lot of time and hours and one-on-one discussion with people trying to help them continue. It's not going to work. But without a doubt, this is a priority for Judy and Paul and the committee as well. The early on centers are excellent. If anyone ever has a chance to visit one of their communities, just to go in and see the interaction that happens, not just with parents and their children, but with other parents talking about similar challenges and experiences they have and friendships that are being built in those early year centers with the parents and the caregivers who are there is absolutely incredible. And Deep River, Laurentian Hills, and Hector and Ryan deserve the same, and it will happen.
Thank you. Anything further? Councillor Renfrew.
Yes, I'd just like to echo Mr. John Castor's comments with regard to it's definitely an impact of Laurentian Hills also. It's missed very much up in our community, and the folks are very keen on seeing something come back in the very near future. I know Mr. Morrow and Mr. Mulvihill have been working very, very hard at this, and they're doing a lot of good things. People don't see it yet. There's a lot of good things to come. And I know the folks there are really looking forward to it. Thank you, staff, for all the hard work that you've been doing on this.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow.
Thank you, Warden, through you to County Council. I appreciate the comments. I just wanted to let County Council know that the RFP is out. It will close on October 22nd, and we'll start the review process as soon as we have a list of non-for-profits that are capable of delivering the program. Once we vet it, though, our goal is to have a new early on program up and running in Laurentian Hills and Deep River, and the program is shared between both communities. We hope to have that up and running into the new year, so that when folks are starting back up into the new year after Christmas holidays, they can start to think about participating in the early on program. So we're not leaving it at that. I just wanted to pass along those dates.
Anything further? Thank you for all those comments. Under resolutions, the Petawawa Housing Corporation, Councillor Donahue.
Thank you, Madam Warden. In reading the background, one has to go back 35 years to 1983 to the inception of this. And I recognize a thing in here, it said there were 6 of these agreements. In reading the background now, one of the foundations of this, the anticipation, expectation, was that at the amortization after 35 years, which probably, like any of my own mortgages, that 35 years seems much shorter from this side of it than it did from the other side of it. However, now we find ourselves in an entirely different situation than had been anticipated, or an alternative, I suppose, is that the outcome after 35 years was aspirational at best. As I understand it, this was a shared funding, tripartite, I think is the term used in the background here, between the County of Renfrew, the province, and the federal government. And it seems inescapable that there was not sufficient funding provided all the way through this, that the degradation or deterioration of the physical asset itself was not taken into account, that there was going to be that deterioration after 35 years. Also, the fact that it was public housing, it seems on the face of it fairly obvious that it is going to be rent geared to income, which is also going to be less than the market rate. So then the subsidy was not bringing that up to what would in any way approximate a business model. Having said all of those things, here we are now at the end of these, and this, I'm not certain if the Ottawaska was similar to this. That I think happened a few years ago, but it seems like, and I don't mean to be flip, but this almost seems to be the current thing of perhaps young people starting out on their own and then finding it difficult to make it and coming back home and moving back into the basement again. So how is this going to constrain our capacity to perhaps increase our inventory of public housing if we are going to be continuing to have this relationship that was anticipated to end this year?
Thank you, Warden, through you to Councillor Donahue and County Council. Really, in your precursor to the start of your question, to some degree you've answered it, and here we are stuck 35 years after this program was initiated. One of the critical challenges is that we have right now is we have a new government at the province of Ontario. There was an agreement signed between the province of Ontario and the federal government to move essentially $2 billion back to the province. But given the change in government, that money has not flowed yet. So we do have some challenges there. But to get to the root of Councillor Donohue's question is, this program, yes, was flawed from the beginning for the very points you made. Even in the absence of getting that new money that would flow from the federal government to the province, we are going to have a challenge in the long term, whether it's economies of scales for non-for-profit housing, 42 units, like the councillor has indicated, with rents that are geared to income, that is an older building, and to give credit to my predecessor, David Anderson, that was built by lowest tender, is going to be a challenge for us to maintain in the longer term. So we have those challenges coming at us. To answer your question, we need new money to flow to bring in new housing, but at the same time, we need resources to maintain what we have. And again, we're going to face that with our own stock, and we will face that with the not-for-profit providers as well. Understand with the not-for-profit, in terms of our service level agreement with the province, we are obligated as the service manager to provide that level of service. So 1,245 units is what our service level agreement says that we provide. We own 940 some units ourselves. We provide those other units through the not-for-profit sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Supplementary?
Thank you, Madam Board. Yes, supplementary. Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Very well explained, certainly to my satisfaction. In the answer, there was something kind of jumped out there. In neon lights, to me, it seems like there's a $2 million envelope sitting around somewhere. $2 billion funding envelope that is sitting on someone's desk awaiting an agreement. I would propose that perhaps under the warden's signature to the ministry and also to our MPP, John Yakubuski, indicating that how essential it is that that agreement be made and these funds begin to flow to the most vulnerable in our population here in the Ottawa Valley, specifically Renfrew County. I think that's unacceptable. It's not a new government anymore. 7th of June was the election. It has been meeting over the summer on other issues. I think it would be appropriate that they come to some agreement on flowing $2 billion.
Sure, Mr. Hutton.
Thank you. We'll take that under advisement and draft a letter.
I don't disagree with Councillor Donohue. I'm just wondering the timing of it right now, since they're going through this budget line by line. I think we need to talk about that.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Hang on, Councillor Emo, I'll tell you in a sec.
Well, respectfully, I think as they're ferreting out what they're trying to find, it might be good to remind them of the priorities of our community and the greater Ontario community by then signing this agreement. I recognize they're going to probably suggest that they're busy trying to find money in spots, but while they're trying to find it, they should also recognize the importance of programs that are in place and the need for them to be expanded, which is a program such as this. The municipal sector can't afford to replace, nor refurbish, nor repair, nor repurpose our existing housing stock without the two partners who logically should be carrying the burden exclusively. And I think we need to remind them of that. So this is probably the best time to send a letter and to publicize it as far and as wide as we can, respectfully.
All right, so do we have a motion on the floor to moved by Councillor Donohue, seconded by Councillor Emo? Any objection? All those in favor? All right, we will make that happen. Anything further? I'm sorry, Councillor Doncaster.
Just a quick point of clarification. Do I not recall that new funding that is not flowing, is that not federal funding?
Yes. All right. The Opeongo nonprofit housing. And moving on to bylaws, the child care agreement. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Emo, did you want to?
Now, my impression is that this is similar to what we went through with Ottawaska in 2004 or 5, I can't remember exactly. So it's basically a winding down of their corporation's obligation to meet on board of directors, but still maintain a separate financial statement and funds.
Mr. Morrow.
Thank you, Warden, through you to Councillor Emo. In this particular case, the rules have changed around this process. The Housing Services Act has been modified to allow the service manager to take over the operations. In my conversations with Mr. Foss, as it relates to the Ottawaska, we actually did, with this council, change that process as well in terms of how we manage those assets. And we have rolled them into our own, making that process much simpler for us to manage. With respect to the Opeongo not-for-profit, their board did pass a resolution asking for us to take it over, so that is the start of the negotiation process. Again, our resolution commits us at the staff level to bring back any agreement or proposed agreement to council for their approval and review. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Sorry, moving on to the bylaws, the child care agreement and Child's Paradise and the addendum, the transfer payment, the report as a whole. Can I get a mover, please? Thank you. All those in favor? Thanks, everyone. Well, that worked out beautifully for time. If everyone would like to just take 5 minutes, and then we will get on to the fun portion of the day. Well, fun but sad. So 5 minutes, everyone. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back, and welcome to all of our special visitors. I'm going to pass this over to Mr. Morrow, who is going to be our Master of Ceremonies this morning.
Thank you, Warden, and I'm going to follow the agenda to a T here. So, roses, and so far, one of the nice things about taking on the new role of CAO is you inherit rose. So, I was just out in the hallway and I was talking to Michael Johnson, a former CAO, and he was sitting beside his significant other, and I happened to know her name was Glenda, and the only reason I knew her name was Glenda was because Rose had prepared me with a list of who was coming. So it's quite an honor to be here, to be the MC for Jim's retirement. More than 30 years of service, Jim, something to be extremely proud of. And, you can see by the pictures here, Jim's mom's in the audience today, and Jim's gonna come up here next and introduce his family. But we want to thank you for giving Jim to us when he was 12. You'll see in some of the pictures that Jim has chubby cheeks when he first started here. So Jim's been with us for a while. I think the fact that you see the number of people here in the room, Jim, is a testament to your career and your legacy. You've done many good things, and you'll see in all the pictures all the great things Jim has done in terms of buildings, infrastructure, policy changes here at the County of Renfrew. But the one thing that's intangible that I want to point out that Jim should probably, in my mind, be most proud of is the culture and the environment he has created here at the County of Renfrew. He has made this place a terrific place to work. Not only through, our employment policies and all those great things, but just a culture where our employees, are collegial, everyone gets along. It's a nice atmosphere to work in. I read the other day the indication of a great place to work is laughter in the building when you walk around, and you most certainly see that here in this building. And that, in big part, is part of what Jim has created. It's an environment where staff are out in the halls or at the water cooler, and they're chatting, And you know what? That's how we do business, and that's a great environment to work in. So thank you very much for that, Jim. So when I got the job, a couple of elected, and the recruitment committee said to me, okay, for the next month, you're hooked at the hip with Jim. And so we've been pretty much hooked at the hip for the last month. And for the most part, Jim has given me really good advice and pointed me in the right direction. But a couple things he said to me have kind of thrown me off. The first thing he said to me was, when you take over as the CAO, I want you to get a new voting system in place. The second thing he said to me was, listen, when we have this little retirement thing for me, I want it low key. Tell the elected to keep it short. It's not going to happen. So moving on, I think I'll ask Jim to come up and introduce your family, if that's okay, Jim. Thank you.
Thanks very much for those kind words, Paul, and thanks to all the guests and my friends, really, that I've had over the past 30-some years, and some for my life, of course. So it's great to see you here. And Paul, the culture is really important, and it's a lot of teamwork here that's brought that about. So thanks a lot. Introductions, my mother, Vida Hutton. I'm going to say it, she's 88 years young and really fit as a fiddle, so welcome, Mom. My son Owen Hutton. Hey, Owen. My brother, I'm glad I have it written down because I can't really see that far at the back. My brother Peter and his wife Lynn. My sister Elizabeth and her husband Bob. My sister Stephanie and her husband Steve. Just a little bit on Stephanie. She was here, she just got here from a doctor's appointment in Ottawa. Stephanie was diagnosed with multiple myeloma 14 years ago, which is a bone cancer. She went through many treatments, and in 2007 I did a bone marrow transplant to Stephanie. And so it's been 10 years cancer-free. And she has my DNA, so we can do a show on CSI or something like that, you know. So, my wonderful wife Tracy. Tracy's parents, Dave and Carol Chamberlain from Russell, New York. No Trump jokes, please. Bob and Shirley Akins. Bob, could you stand up, please? Bob. And Shirley. Bob was about the third person I met in 1987 when I stepped into the county building on William Street. And Bob was a draftsman, I was a planning technician, and Bob kind of took me under his wing. We spent the next 2 or 3 years arguing about politics. Bob thought I was too far left, I thought he was too far right, but we both thought we were in the middle. It was kind of funny. But Bob and I stayed friends all these years. Bob retired in '96, so it's good to see you again, Bob. I haven't seen you in a year or more, so thanks for coming. And last but not least, my cousin, Sister Catherine Fairburn, a great sister. Catherine's been a friend of our family for many, many years. She spent summers growing up with our family. She's been in Pembroke for 30 or more years, Catherine, as a great sister? 60, okay. All right. 60, okay. Yeah. She's taught at Bishop Smith Catholic High School, and the last couple of years she's taken to inviting Owen and I over for dinners with the Grey Sisters, and it's actually an opportunity for Owen and I to get a balanced meal, so I thought I'd repay the favor. Thanks very much.
So I have the honor of introducing a number of guests that we have here. So I'll just get you to stand here in terms of Joan Lahi, Mayor of Town of Deep River, is with us today. Joan? Did I see Don Eady here as well? Don from Town of Renfrew. Hal Johnson? See Hal?
No? Okay. Mike LeMay? Welcome. Terry Lapierre, is Terry here today? And Colleen Sorrell's here. I know I saw Colleen back there. And well, I'm at Dean Sorrell's here, the CAO from Laurentian Valley. And we have a number of other special guests with us. I don't know if I saw Fred Blackstein. Oh, go ahead, welcome. Chris Hinsberger. Chris will be up here saying a few words a little bit later. And Gerald Tracy? No, not here. Okay. And Annette Gilchrist from Abbotsford Bromley. And Kim Bulmer I saw at the back from the town of Renfrew. And I saw Allison as well back in the back. Allison Holzhauer, CAO. Sue Sheridan. Sue, welcome. And Lorna Hutter, the CAO as well from Killuena with us. Chris Kunapaski. Where's Chris? Right there. Welcome. And a couple of elected, or Dan Lynch, who is going to be taking over from Mayor Stack. Dan was acclaimed for the town of Arnprior. Welcome, Dan. And my favorite dance partner, Nellie Kingsbury. And former councillor Jack Wilson for the Township of Laurentian Valley. And sorry, Dave Darch. Sorry, Dave, I just had breakfast with you this morning. Jim Kutschke, former Director of Finance and Admin. And I believe last but not least is David Anderson, and I referenced Dave earlier on today. Welcome. We have a couple other staff here, Judy Mulvihill, Carol Neal, and Laura Lapine from Social Services as well. Norm. Oh, sorry, Norm. And not last, least but not last, or however that goes, Norm Lemke, the former CAO. Michael Johnson, another CAO as well. Sorry, with all these CAOs in the room, I'm just getting really nervous. I believe that's it for the list. Thank you.
Good job, Paul.
Back to the agenda. Well, you know, if I'm going to screw it up, at least I can make it somewhat funny. So, next, Warden, take over. You've done this before.
I know, but I'm already getting a bit emotional here. Hello and good morning, everyone. I wish to take a moment to speak to you all about leadership and friendship. I'd like each of you in attendance here today to reflect upon the sharing of leadership and friendship by Jim. All those he has led, worked with, and served over a career that spans more than 3 decades are better in some way for having been in your presence as a peer, as staff, or as a member of council. Jim, your years of service have provided real change and a steady hand on the tiller in both calm and turbulent times. Your leadership has certainly benefited our community. Your dedicated service is celebrated today here by peers, staff, senior leadership, and elected officials alike, a celebration and acknowledgement that is well-deserved. I want to thank you for your dedication in providing exceptional service that time and time again delivered results that benefited our communities across the county in a professional and efficient manner as expected by our residents. Personally, I wish to thank you for your professionalism, advice, and great administrative support at the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus. Your experience and knowledge certainly assisted me in my capacity at the EOWC and interacting with all senior levels of government. Jim, your 31 years of public service are a testament of what hard work, determination, and lifelong learning can produce. Beginning your career with the county way back in 1987 as a planning technician, You then took a brief trip to Bruce County for a couple of years, but we know that you missed the Ottawa Valley, and so you returned to us in 1991 as a land use planner. And over the following 19 years, you served as an economic development officer, manager of planning and forestry, and the director of development and property. And then in 2010, you took the lead as CIO and clerk. Jim, all those transitions truly show the 800 plus employees here at the County of Renfrew that succession is not just a plan, but a reality. Jim, you personify the County of Renfrew's core values: honesty, integrity, professionalism, client service orientation, and focus on results. It is with the greatest appreciation on behalf of all of County Council that I say thank you for your 31 years of public service. The County of Renfrew is certainly a better place because of Jim's leadership, dedication, and friendship. I wish you all the best in your retirement. I wish you happiness and continued success in all your future endeavors. Thank you, Jim.
So unfortunately, Steve Sellers from the province of Ontario couldn't be here today, so we've asked the warden to present this plaque from the Premier of Ontario. Whose name's on it anyways?
Actually, Steve Clark's.
Oh, Steve Clark. Okay, so it's not Doug Ford or Kathleen Wynne. I was just curious.
Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
They're trying to save money, so I thought they had a bunch printed off with Kathleen Wynne's name on it, so they wouldn't want to waste them. So.
He's getting off to a really good start,
Yeah.
So I think we should read this. It says, James Hutton, on behalf of the Government of Ontario, I would like to thank you for your 31 years of municipal and public service. Your efforts and dedication to municipal and public service over the years are sincerely appreciated and have greatly contributed to improving the lives of the residents of your community. As you begin this new chapter of your life, I would like to offer you my congratulations on your significant achievements and best wishes for the years ahead. And it is signed by Steve Clark, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Thank you, Warden. So we'll move on to our next speaker. But before I do, I'd like to just acknowledge that Dan Sissons is here, CAO from the town of Petawawa, as well as Don Goulet, who is, I believe, the president of the Bonnechere Manor Foundation. And Don will be up to speak to us in a minute. Next on the list, though, is Chris Hinsberg, and I'd like to welcome Chris up to say a few words. Chris is the president chair of the board of directors for the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association. Chris has been in that role for a number of years now. It must be 5 now, for at least 5 years, and does a great job in terms of a volunteer for the County of Renfrew and the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association. So as a member of that organization, not only does he promote all the other valuable tourist resources we have, but in his spare time, he finds time to manage Bonnechere Caves as well. So welcome, Chris, and thank you.
Thank you, Paul. On behalf of the OVTA Board of Directors, my colleagues in tourism across Renfrew County, Jim, congratulations on your retirement. A word that was thrown around just a little while ago is workplace culture. Culture has a few different meanings. To me, culture is tourism, and tourism is how us Ottawa Valley folks share our culture. The culture that has taken place in this room, in this county building, that gives us the support we have needed to go forward to tell our stories is about leadership. And Jim, I thank you for that leadership. Again, it gives us the confidence to tell our stories. The sign of a good leader, as we all know, is not when the leader moves on, things fall apart, but things remain strong. And through your leadership, Jim, it will live on through the people that work in this building And for the gentleman who's going to replace you, because us folks in tourism remain confident in the leadership that will follow you. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Chris. Next, I'd like to invite Don Goulet up. So as Don makes his way up, Don is one of the founding members of the Bonashare Manor Foundation. And just to give you an indication, how important these foundations are to the County of Renfrew, the Bonashare Manor Foundation was instrumental in raising funds to help us create and add on to the Bonashare Manor building. We created an auditorium there. I think that was 2011, right, Jim? That was, you had started that project, and then I came on, and so it was probably done in 2011, thereabouts. So, quite a significant program. So if you've been to Bonashare Manor, you'll see this fantastic facility that's been created, and the drive for that comes from folks like Don and our volunteers that we have that work for us. So they spearhead important initiatives like that. So Don, thank you very much. Take it away.
Thank you, Paul. Actually, I can mention I'm the last surviving member of the Bonashare Manor Foundation, the original group anyways. It's with pleasure and regret that I come to say goodbye to a friend. Jim has been very supportive to the Bonashare Manor Foundation since he first took the role of CAO. Can't believe it was 2010 we had the groundbreaking ceremony. For 8 years, everyone who's been associated with the Bonashare Manor, the 180 residents, have enjoyed Renfrew Rotary Hall. One of the residents' programs that we have is the Residents Art Group, and not want to keep you here all day because I know there's 15 other speakers behind me. Jim, I'd like to have you come forward and just take something back to Prescott with you. It's not the keys to my Corvette. That's something you're going to have to get on your own. I know we would like to get one for you.
I can get you those keys when he drops his car off at Murphy's Auto, Jim.
Anyway, on behalf of the foundation, a little thank you card. Yeah. Anyway, appreciate all your help and support.
Yeah, thanks very much, Don.
Very welcome.
Okay. Thanks, Don. We'll talk about the vet.
Okay.
Thank you, Don. That was terrific. Next, Charles Cheeseman. And if I could ask Charles to come up. And Charles has a bit of a presentation for us. And I think, Rosa, you're going to load that up for us? What, oh, sorry. You want that up right now?
No.
Okay. Take it away. Thanks, Charles.
Well, thank you, Paul, and thank you, Warden Murphy, members of County Council, county staff, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, and Jim. My name is Charles Cheeseman. I'm the Manager of Planning Services from the County of Renfrew. Jim, it was gratifying to see you get an award from the province because I know how much you love the provincial policy statement. My association with Jim goes back a number of years. March 14th, 1988 to be precise, when I arrived at the County of Renfrew Planning Department at 169 William Street and first met W. James, also known as Jim, who was on staff. We hit it off almost immediately, and we've been friends and colleagues ever since. We realized we had a lot in common. We were the same age at the time, and still are. Trained in geography. We were both new to Pembroke and from outside the area. And we had a lot of shared interests, like sports, but also more highfalutin interests, like history, politics, and religion. You know, the subjects you're not supposed to talk about in coffee rooms anymore. But Jim and I had some differences as well, which actually energized our discussions and friendship. After all, you never learn anything from people who have the same views as you do. We carried different political stripes, attended different churches, hailed from different parts of the province, and even worse, we cheered for different hockey teams. One was a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, and the other a Montreal Canadiens fan. Now, I'm not going to say who is a fan of which team, but I'll give you a hint. The team I went for actually won the Stanley Cup many times while I was growing up. But I'm happy to report that we've been able to work out some of our differences over the years, and there's been some convergence between our viewpoints. We're both now Ottawa Senators fans, and they don't look like they're going to win the Stanley Cup anytime soon. Of the 30 to 35 people in the county administration building at 169 William Street in 1988, when I started, only 3 of us remain in this building today.
Jim, and he's about to leave, Karen in social services, and yours truly, who's never leaving. We've sort of been channeling the old rock group Genesis and their 1978 album, And Then There Were Three. Well, soon it'll be And Then There Were Two. And then Karen and I will channel the old Meatloaf song, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Fair to say I'm Jim's longest suffering colleague. Oh, sorry, Jim, longest serving colleague. Just to give you an idea how long Jim and I worked together, when I started at the county in 1988, we still used IBM Selectric typewriters, although word processors, if you remember word processors, were just coming onto the scene. There was certainly no IT department because there was no IT. There were no computers and not even a fax machine. As I was preparing these words for this morning, I chatted with Jim about the old days, and he remembers when we got our first fax machine at 169 William Street, and 8 or 10 of us were in the photocopy room, huddled around this new marvel of technology, blinking and bleeping to life as we all waited expectantly for our first fax to come in over the wire. And looking back, it almost sounds like the days of Alexander Graham Bell and the making of the first telephone call. Over the years, I've learned a few things about Jim. A little known fact is that he also has a background in geology. And that prepared him well for the demands and rigor of a CAO, because geologists are trained to leave no stone unturned. Geology was also a useful background for Jim's planning career because, as we all know too well in this chamber, getting an official plan approved can sometimes move at the speed of a glacier. I also learned at the County Warden's Golf Tournament that I'm a marginally better golfer than Jim, but that's not saying a heck of a lot. And I at least enjoy playing the game. But the biggest thing I learned about Jim, and something that paid huge dividends for my success as his 2IC for a number of years, was that Jim does not like surprises. Most of us do not like surprises, but Jim carried it to a whole different level. So imagine my delight one day when I came across a cartoon in a magazine that perfectly summed up Jim's management philosophy. So you see the guy at the desk in the thing at the back with surprises with the line through. So that sort of encompassed Jim's management philosophy, and I gave that to you a number of years ago, and hopefully no hard feelings. But
I was surprised.
Yeah, it was good. For almost 20 years, our offices were side by side, and you get to know someone in that situation. Our office proximity created some interesting dynamics. One of those occurred during a reorganization in our planning department when a new planning manager's position was created that presented a job promotion opportunity for both of us, and we both applied for the position. My interview was at 10 a.m. and Jim's was at 9 a.m. 1 or 2 minutes before 9, I poked my head into Jim's office and said, "Jim, your interview's at 9 a.m. Like, what are you doing?" He had a sudden look of shock, and then he had to scramble. Well, the end result was that Jim made the interview on time and deservedly got the promotion. But I always wondered about a counterfactual proposition, the proverbial what if. What if I hadn't reminded Jim of his 9 a.m. interview? He may have been late or missed it altogether, and if that happened, I might have gotten the promotion at that time, and I might be retiring as CAO today. And folks, that's not the case, and don't waste your time on counterfactuals. As manager of planning services to Jim's director of development and property, we dealt with a lot of crazy situations and files that really challenged our problem-solving skills and our ability to strike the delicate balance between public and private interests. Jim was the original architect of a solutions-oriented approach to planning problems, which stressed, hello, look for solutions with planning applications. That's still the foundation of our planning division today. I reached a point in working with Jim that I felt we could solve almost any planning issue. And when you have a working relationship like that, where you think you can solve any problem, you have no fear. And when you have no fear, you can accomplish almost anything. Jim, looking back over the past 30 years, the thing that stands out the most in my mind is how fast it went by. But before you get depressed at the pace at which time seems to pass, remember this quote. Yes, the bad news is time flies. The good news is you're the pilot. So I certainly wish you a happy landing in your retirement. To this point, I've shared a few personal reflections about my time working with Jim, but I've also been asked to thank you, Jim, on behalf of all the staff of the County of Renfrew for your years of dedicated service, and especially for successfully leading our organization over the past years through the minefield that is municipal government, and for your efforts in trying to keep us out of lawsuits along the way, and hoping Paul can do the same.
Good luck.
Jim, as you ponder your new status as County of Renfrew Emeritus, may you take comfort in these words someone once said about retirement. You have to put off being young until you retire. So in your retirement, regardless of what you do, may you be forever young. And I notice that there's some quote unquote youngsters in the audience this morning, fellow past county retirees, and maybe you can ask them if these words are true or not. So on a final note, Jim, thanks for being my friend and colleague over the past 30 years, and I wish you and Tracy and your family all the best in your retirement, and maybe we'll get to another NCAA football game. Go Orange.
So we asked Charles to do that on behalf of all the staff, but as Charles mentioned in his speech to Jim, there is another longest-serving member here, and Karen, this October is 35 years of service to the county of Renfrew. For some reason, I could not convince Karen as the longest-serving member to do the speech, so we opted for Charles. So, Charles, Karen, take it away.
Okay. Well, Jim, we're going to give you a little
Jim, come on up.
memento.
Oh, we get my
Oh, is
face
that,
all
oh,
over.
good. It's the faces of Jim. Oh, Tracy, that's going to soak in your house.
Say cheese.
Forward for me. Tilt the picture. Great, right there. Big smile.
I want to get a picture of this too.
A few more. Just hold on.
The non-smiling faces.
I know, smile.
Yeah.
Fortunately, this is my good side.
Good.
I'm trying to. That's for last one.
Break it now. You've made it this long.
Yeah, really nice.
Yep, that's going right.
Oh,
over your head.
thanks. You should give that to Jim.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a nice, that was very well done. Keep the binder back. No, that's a county binder. It has to stay here. You can give him this. I just told Charles you should give Jim a copy of that speech because I think that's a real keepsake. It was so well done. But it is county property, that binder, so it stays here. We have one more item to give you, Jim, if you could come back up. You might as well not sit down. Warden, Rose. So we've had something special done for you to mark your years of service. So on behalf of everyone, we'd like to present you with this, and now Gill Associates? Richard Gill produced this piece of artwork for us, and it's, one of the legacies that you have is the trail, and I think it's something that you should display proudly in your new home.
Well, that's beautiful. This says Ottawa Valley Recreation Trail on it, which, as we know, is good to be. Very nice. Thanks,
Congratulations.
Bob. Thank you.
Let's get a picture of that one. Oh, it's so amazing. It's amazing. Neither of us wanted to touch
Let me knock it in here.
it. When you break it.
Right here.
Sort of half in the screen, not half. If you
Sorry, no, I didn't hear you.
could you move that way?
Yeah, there we go. That's the light.
Thank you.
Because you get the light, it's partly across your head.
Okay. Right
So
here.
it still is actually. I would
Do
keep
we
it
want the
moving.
screen up?
Or off.
Yeah.
Or off. It's,
Yeah.
it's the light.
Yeah, okay.
It's a purple head.
And I think we have a button for that
Yeah,
screen.
you do have a purple head.
Oh, it's still purple.
Beautiful.
I know. When Rose showed it to me, I couldn't believe it.
Right
One
here.
of a kind, Jim.
Yeah.
Let's wait for it. Wait for it. Is that where your hands on you?
No, it was kind of a collaboration of stuff.
Just waiting on the screen. Okay. Right here, big smile.
Okay, I'm going to do them over again. And just change the setting.
Smile, Jen.
I'm trying.
It's still purple.
Yeah.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Rose, can I ask you to move in a little bit? Big smile. Please, please, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rose. Do we have the gavel to give next?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, pass it
No
around.
Don Edie though, right? No Don Edie?
They might take that home, but
Well, he wasn't already.
Oh, yeah, okay. So we have one final item to present to Jim. And I'd like to call up Councillor Sweet, Councillor Emo, and the warden. So we're going to present Jim with the gavel. And we thought it was appropriate to have the wardens that Jim had served under in his tenure as CAO. So don't ask me the dates when these folks were the wardens. I know I started, Mayor Sweet was here, then Peter took over, and now we have Warden Murphy.
2011, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16,
17,
17, 18.
Pretty good.
That memory's getting better, Jim.
Yeah.
So Peter, you want to grab the gavel? And
Isn't that nice? It's good. Your hair is good, but your lapel was all weird.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Sure.
One of those.
Okay. Right here. You.
Okay.
Vance, say recorded vote for us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Well done, Jim.
Thanks, Peter. Being newly married, this will come in handy.
First inappropriate comment I've ever heard out of your mouth, Jim. Tracy? Thanks, Peter. And he's also got a copy of Robert's Rules of Order to go along with the gavel, so it is a complete set. Warden, I believe I'll turn it over to you at this point in terms of comments from our elected officials, if you'd like to manage that part of the process.
I would absolutely like to do that. Thank you for emceeing, Paul.
Thank you.
Anyone with butterfingers, don't touch that. Oh, quick. Councillor Wisniewski-Moore.
Since I'm the longest one sitting here beside Mr. Wilson, who's in the audience, I met Jim, 30 years ago, and I sat on the Land Division Committee, and Jim was the planner that supported that committee. And we probably disagreed 98% of the time there, because I was a little more, he was a planner, and I was no. So we did get into many discussions, but I grew to respect him, and we became friends. So even though we did disagree most of the time, Jim, I have a lot of respect for you. And when you became the CAO, that respect even grew further. You're a wonderful human being, and it's not just your capacity as the CAO, but you have a true, pure heart. And many times I've seen Jim brought to tears by things that happened in these chambers and remarks that were made. Jim, so that's a true leader. So you can lead, but yet you have compassion in your heart. And you feel for the people of Renfrew County that you served in your capacity here. So I am really proud and honored to say I'm a friend of yours, and I do have a lot of respect for you. I'm glad that I had an opportunity to meet your family, and especially I'm going to meet Stephanie. When you came here and told us that Stephanie was ill and what you were going to do for her, my respect again grew even more. What a wonderful tribute to your sister, and and I'm so glad that she's here today and that she's cancer-free. I had cancer too, Stephanie. I read your book and it brought me to tears, and Jim gave that to us to read. So on behalf of the residents of Killaloe, Haggerty, and Richards, and myself, good, and to you and Tracy, good luck with your retirement. Have a lot of fun, and always remember that you left your friendship with Killaloe, Haggerty, and Richards on myself. So good luck. Thank you so much.
Jim, just before I go to Councillor Emo there, I've just been told that the lobby is filled with people watching you on the monitor. So, hi everyone in the lobby. Councillor Emo.
So I was sort of laughing with Charles's speech when he talks about Jim and surprises. I have two very quick stories about Jim being surprised and the look of horror on his face. Jim had just become CAO, and one of the county council members who sat beside me, not Tom Peckett, became pregnant. And Jim and I, with our powers of observation, missed it. But we were on our way to Windsor to an annual conference, and I was in another vehicle, and Jim was in the vehicle ahead of us. So I had 6 hours to plot, just to have a little fun, Jim. And so we got there to Donnie Rathbell with the warden, and we were having dinner, so I sidled over to them and made sure I was in the middle, and I said, "Oh my God, you've seen new legislation." And Jim right away, "No, what?" And I said, "Well, we have a county council member as a baby, so now we have to have a breastfeeding room, we've got a separate bathroom, separate change table." So Jim and Donnie, I kept this up for about 3 days, and they just got increasingly horrified. So finally, just before we left, I said, "I'm just kidding." So Jim said a bad word to me. I think he wasted a lot of time. He'd actually gone to church that Sunday as well, I think, looking for guidance, so I waited until after church. That was one of the look on Jim's face was priceless. I wish I would have had my phone that day because it was hilarious. And another instance, when I was chair of the Warden's Caucus, we were meeting with the NDP caucus, and a warden from another county who has some rough edges. We made the mistake of allowing him to speak on a topic, and it was this very nice NDP member from up north, and he didn't know where her home riding was, and we were talking about the state of our roads, and this caucus member started babbling about, good word, babbling, about gravel roads and how important the infrastructure is and how come we can't get any money, and then she said, "Well, I know about gravel roads," and he said, "Well, honey, how would you know about gravel roads? You live in the city." So she proceeded to tell me she was from northern Ontario. But the moment when he threw out the word honey, and this was 3 years ago, Jim and I was trying to chair the meeting and trying to put out fires. I think Jim was looking for an exit, and it was like an IKEA commercial. Start the car, start the car. When we got done, we managed to cement everything over, but I saw Jim's skills as a politician that far outweighed mine when he hustled over and chatted up the NDP member and slowed down the train that was coming down the track for us. But anyway, that was another instance where Jim's calmness, but as you noted, Charles, he was not a proponent of surprise. So after that, we made very sure that the people we had speaking were responsible and also had scripted remarks. But thank you, Jim.
Councillor Sweet.
Well, thank you very much, Warden. A really nice day. This is terrific to be part of this. Jim Hutton's got quite a sense of humor. You work with them. I've worked with them for 18 years. And on one occasion, and this lasted for quite some time, I was the victim of some of that humor. There's two great events that happened, huge events that happened in Renfrew County. One is the International Plowing Match, and I see Fred at the back there, it happened in 1994. And the other one was Expo 150. And I was the chair and I was warden at the time, and I wanted nothing but the best. I wanted the very best that Renfrew County had to offer, and somehow or another this name came up, and the name was Mr. Mufferall. And I said, okay, let's get a hold of that guy. I just wanted, oh, he's good. I said, well, let's get a hold of him. Where is he? He's in Arm Park. I said, oh, really? How do we get a hold of them? Well, we'll get a hold of them for you. And they kept this going. Everybody was in it. As you can tell, I'm not from this part of the world. I was born in Scotland. I didn't know there was a person by the name of Joe Muffalo. They kept this going and going and going. I kept asking, how are we doing? How much does he cost? Because again, because he's terrific. He's from the valley and he knows lots of stories. Anyway, I was at a meeting and Guy Jameson came in with his guitar and he started to play that song about Mr. Big Joe Muffalo. And I thought, you guys got me. Yeah. Jim was involved with that one too. So, as I say, he's got quite a sense of humor. The other one, I kind of got back a little bit on this one, I suppose, in a sense, because when you're warden, you can there are other duties as assigned within the terms of reference, and we were looking for someone to look after the parking at Expo 150. And on those pictures you saw up there, Jim was seconded to do the parking. They thought, well, that's an easy job, no problem. His job was to bring cars in and then bring cars in and make sure the cars get out. We didn't anticipate the type of response that we got. There was maybe 10, 15,000 cars. I don't know how many, Jim. You might have known. Lots, that's for sure. We got the vest on with the X's on, the safety vest, and he was over there in the parking lot. Well, that's fine the first day. It was no problem, but the second day it got a little bit dusty. And as the cars were coming in, the dust was lying all over them, and all the cars came in. And by the third day, when cars were coming in, there was no such thing as a green car or a blue car. They were all the same color, they're sand. And so when people were leaving, Jim's job was to find out where their car was. And they'd ask the people, and they'd say, well, mine's a green car. And when you look across the whole area of the parking lot, there were no green cars. There was no blue cars. There were just cars, all covered in sand, the same color. That took Jim to a different level because he was going crazy, trying to get people in and out. Came over to me today and he said, Bob, he said, I have to go back to a much easier job with this parking. He said, I'm going back to become the CEO again. That's in essence what happened. Just on a personal issue, I've known, as I say, Jim for 18 years, I guess, and over that period of time, I worked with him as warden and the head of development and property. Fun, it was a fun time. We did a lot of serious stuff and we did a lot of things done, but we never lost the fun aspect of that. And Jim's been a great guy and a great friend, and I want to wish him and Tracy all the very, very best. We were down at a wonderful wedding down in the United States, and I was privileged to be there. Jim, I want to wish you and Tracy and all the family all the very best. Jim, you deserve the retirement. Perhaps you could take up golf a little bit, come back and see if you can put any pressure on me in the next warden golf. Anyway, congratulations, Jim, and all the very best in retirement.
Boy, Jim, I wonder if we could bring up that song from your wedding that you and Tracy sang. I think we could make that happen. Maybe after lunch. It could happen. Councillor Stack.
Thank you. I've been here for 12 years, and this will be my last year, so I've been, I guess I could say technically 3 CAOs, because Norm was here when I came, Jim for the last 8 years, and Paul, you're only going to get 2 months, so you got a bit of a break. But I just want to say, when I was on the recruitment committee for when Jim was hired, and again for when Paul was hired, and when our consultant gathered us in this room around the front section of that thing, they asked each of us what we thought was really important in recruiting the next CAO in terms of maintaining the culture and the work environment at the county. And we all had some great suggestions. When it came to my turn, the first thing that came to my mind, and Paul alluded to it earlier, was humor. I said, when I came here 12 years ago, and I won't get into it, but I came with a specific interest in rebuilding and, let's say, improving the relationship between the town of Renfrew and the county of Renfrew. And the one thing I can remark over those 12 years, that a lot of serious business was done here. There was some heated moments in terms of discussion, which is what's supposed to happen around the council table, as long as you can leave it when the discussion is over. But there's been a lot of laughter and humor, and it was evident in the leadership, and it's something I'm sure, Paul, that you'll be able to continue. But I just thought in my tenure here at the county, it was so evident that people had fun at work, and I thought it was important, that continue. And Jim, that's certainly going to be part of your legacy, as it was in Orange. So congratulations on your retirement, and I hope you all the best for the future.
Councillor Reinwald.
Thank you, Warden Murphy. So far you've heard conversations from the folks around the table here who've known him for a long time. Well, I'm at the opposite end of the spectrum. I've only known Jim for 3 and somewhat years, and I was newly elected in 2014, and I had no background with regard to municipal politics, let alone coming to county council. And so that's when I first met Jim, and I found that being new to the game, I had so much to learn and so much to listen to people. At any time I was at our own municipality, I was always talking to our CEO and why are we doing this way and so on. And then when I came to county council, I then too was very concerned and confused about how things proceeded. So on a couple of occasions I was able to speak to Jim on a one-on-one basis, and I found Jim had such a nice, comfortable way in telling me that I was nothing but a bumbling idiot. He said it in such a nice way that I would thank him for it. So Jim, I just got to thank you for not telling me directly that I was a bumbling idiot, and that I developed an immediate respect for you when we had our conversations. So I just want to congratulate you and also your family on your retirement. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Warden. Like Councillor Reinwald, I was new at this. I've only been here 4 years, but prior to coming here, Mayor Jack Wilson made sure I knew about all of the players, in particular Jim, and he was absolutely right. Professional integrity, above and beyond what anybody would expect. You're the third person retiring in the one term that I've had at County Council. And the last 2 I cried. They're in the stands there with my wife. I have had an opportunity certainly to know Jim professionally when I was a journalist and interviewed him over the years, and has not held any of that against me, which I do appreciate as well. So I'm determined not to shed a tear, so I've written my comments here and you can read them later.
Really good idea.
Yes.
Councillor Kingsbury.
Well, I'm one of the newbies as well. 4 years ago, we talked to the chamber up here, and when you first come in, you're a bit nervous and apprehensive about what takes place up here. But as you enter, one of the people at the board and talk to you is Mr. Hutt, and he sticks his hand out and shakes your hand and makes you feel so welcome and calms you down. I did have a little bit of insight, Jim, into you through my wife, who was with the county for 38 years, so she kind of knew again and briefed me on some of the people who are out here, so I thank her for that. And I thank you for your generous comments that you have given me and our township over the years, and on behalf of all the residents of Martin Township, I wish you only the best. Thank you.
Councillor Packett.
Thank you, Warden Murphy. Also a newbie. Came here with confused mind or mindset of how exactly things work and who was on your side and who was going to guide me and show me the ropes around here. And upon meeting Jim, the same as the other newbies, he was a great person to talk to with any concerns that you have. He helped in solving any of the problems that I have. Actually, wondered why Jim never became a politician, because he certainly has the manner in order to affect decisions for the better for all of Renfrew County. So on behalf of all the residents of McNabb Braeside, Jim, the thing I'd like to wish you great success in your retirement. And believe me when I tell you, I've earned nothing but respect for you.
Well, Jim, I had written some notes because I am going to thank a lot of your staff later on in the meeting, but I think it's appropriate to thank you now. In the last while, we've had some challenges in Calabogie, and I have been so impressed by your staff, and I know that comes from good leadership, so I do want to pass that along to you. And the 4 years that I've been here, I've enjoyed every bit of it, and I've complimented you many times over the time, but I just wanted on this, the Township of Greater Madawaska to say thank you. It ripples down, and you're there to support our staff when we need help and need questions answered. So I just want to tell you how much I appreciated being here and how much I appreciate you as an individual and a CEO. So thank you very much.
Councillor Donahue.
Thank you very much, Madam Warden. I'm going to do something that I have not done, I think, in this august chamber since I came here. I'll be brief. While I'm similar to what some of my colleagues have said, I too only came to this chamber in this millennium. I don't date from the previous millennium. I do, however, I think perhaps predate maybe everyone in the chamber in knowing Mr. Hutton, because being a landowner in Renfrew County, in particular, you might be familiar with Madam Warden in Lake Clear. I think it was in '92 perhaps, with the official plan. I believe Sebastopol was one of the first communities to adopt an official plan. And I'm paraphrasing here, absolutely, when I had suggested upon presentation of this plan to Mr. Hutton that he must be a contortionist of unparalleled ability to have produced this piece of thing. It is a style, and I certainly questioned his intellect. It is astonishing to me how much Mr. Hutton has learned in the intervening time. I also, in defense of Jim, first off, I also must acknowledge, and I'm sure that Mr. Cheeseman can second this, I think there is no better way to become a friend of everyone in the Ottawa Valley to be the planner for the county of Renfrew. That gets the job done. In defense of Jim and the voting system, he had acknowledged to me some time ago that it was based on the same foundation as the Phoenix Pay system, so you have to give Jim the benefit of the doubt in that regard. What I do absolutely want to say is not only has it been a pleasure to have worked with Jim since I have been here, and as I said, prior to me sitting in this very august chamber, it has also been a pleasure, Jim, to know you. So thank you very much.
As a newbie sitting in this chair, coming back, I met Jim as a planner in Calabogie many years ago, Calabogie Peaks, and then Calabogie Lodge, and Calabogie Motorsports, and Miss Amiel Street. Each one of them was contentious and interesting, and Jim was very professional and taught me a lot about keeping out of trouble when I was testifying, so thank you very much for that. I'm sure our insurance company appreciated that. And And then subsequent years when I came to came to the Chambers, as Michael has said, and I wish Jim was the first one to brief me on it. I had a brief exposure. I'm going to call on Norm Lemke's memory, but I had a brief exposure. Paul Doyle at Reeve of Greater Madawaska was not going to sit here, and so appointed me, hoping that I would come up and stir up trouble. So when I came in the door, Jim and Norm came over to approach me because Jim knew me and Norm didn't. and suggested, well, you can't really sit in the chair. I said, no, I've already researched this. So that was, it was pretty funny watching that. But that was my first exposure, and then I came here as an elected member. And of course, it leaned on Jim for his expertise on any number of topics. And then, as noted, having served as warden in the past, I was very dependent on Jim for guidance in dealing with the province. Some of my colleagues in Chambers, of course. There's only one or two problems with any of my colleagues, and then also with staff. So thank you very much, Jim, and best to you and Tracy and your family.
Okay then, that was lovely, everyone. Jim, I guess you would like to invite your family and friends and colleagues to have some lunch?
Yeah, I have to say a few final words.
Oh, you did? All right, I guess. Jim, I just wanted to say, again, thank you and congratulations. I hope you and Tracy have a wonderful time being together and enjoying your retirement. And you and I will always have flip-flop gate.
Are you done?
He gets cheekier by the moment.
I thought I could get through this without that flip-flop thing. Staff,
It had to be done.
staff will remember that well, and so will my mother, actually. She sent me articles of support. We'll have to talk about that later. Thanks very much, Warden Murphy, and all guests, elected official, for those kind words. And Charles, I really wish I'd asked you to write me a speech. Boy, that was good, so thank you very much. It's hard to believe that actually 31 years of municipal service could go by so quickly, and of course you're 31 years older. I graduated in 1985 from Carleton University. I don't know, those in the room, some may remember that we had two recessions in '85, one at the start, one at the end. The one at the end, there was some Black Monday going on with a lot of loss in the stock market. But in the middle, I was looking for work. I was young, I was bright, I was energetic, just graduated. I put out 85 applications across Ontario, and finally in August, before August, I ended up with an interview at the County of Renfrew. I felt that if I could get my foot in the door, I would do well at any organization I joined. So I came up in '87. Norm interviewed me. You may not remember that. I'm sure he interviewed a lot of people. None as bright as me, but Norm interviewed me along with Vance Bedore, and I was given the opportunity to be a planning tech. And I'm so fortunate, looking back, that the County of Renfrew was the organization that I was able to get my foot in the door. I couldn't have picked a better place to work. The people here, the elected, the staff, we've got such a great staff. We talk about our culture and how nice it is, how good a place it is to work at the County of Renfrew. That's a team effort on everybody's part. Our staff, our elected care so much about our community, not only here at the County of Renfrew, but at their local level, and that's really important. So I want to say thank you for all of the support over the years. And the people in the County of Renfrew are just great, and I've got a few comments a little later on just to tell you how great and generous the people of the County of Renfrew are. But it's been a wonderful place to live and work. And as it's been mentioned, I wanted to be a planner, and planning is not a popular sport in the County of Renfrew, and I did find that out. And I'd been threatened more than once that I should be on the endangered species list. So I did find, though, that if you try to use common sense, and common sense is two key words, the residents will not like what you say, but they might agree, and I'm being somewhat generous, that it is necessary. But you have to explain the rationale behind the policies and why, and then you can generally get people to agree. Yeah, I don't like that, but I can see how it might be good for, the general public. But
Overall, certainly not a popular sport whatsoever. Between 87 and 2010, I did take on 6 or 7 different roles. I became CAO in 2010, and yes, it can be a difficult job. You've only got 2 arms. I've got 17 bosses. I've got 7 department heads that report directly to me, and it's a lot of arm twisting going on. Sometimes you don't know how far your arms will twist. But we've been blessed with great elected officials here, and you know, the county is so much of has benefited so much for it over these last years. And in terms of any asset I might have, I know there were a lot of kind words said about me here, and they're all true. And I want to get Mike to get that tape because I need it to remind Tracy all the time. But looking back, I think common sense is so key. And it came to planning, I tried common sense. And Charles mentioned it. I'm really glad he did, because I think I was a groundbreaker in that, or an icebreaker in that, in using, you know, some common sense and looking for solutions. And to Paul's credit, Paul was a district planner at M&R. Yes, Paul is a registered professional planner. And he and I would go out, this is probably more than 15 years ago now, when you could actually travel out with a ministry employee, and we'd look at a property, and there'd be a severance, and I'd say, Paul, you know what? That 30-meter setback there doesn't make any sense. And, you know, this is only a, and Paul would look at it and he'd say, yeah, Jim, you're right. We can do this here. And we did. And that's, you know, that's the way Paul worked. And that's why I really think Paul will be an excellent CAO. So, some of the events that I've been proud of, the International Plowing Match was phenomenal. I played a very, very, very small part in that event, but I got to see what a team could do, dedicated individuals and volunteers could do to bring off an excellent event. And I got to know, of course, Fred Blackstein and Jack Wilson. So I'd actually like to give those 2 gentlemen a hand if I could. That was an amazing event. The ice storm in '98, I mentioned this because of the generosity. I want to use it as an example of the generosity of Renfrew County. My family in Leeds Grumble, we weren't hit very hard here in the Pembroke area. My family was hit incredibly hard along the St. Lawrence River. My parents were without power for at least 3 weeks. Generators were very, very rare, and if you could find a generator, it was something. I phoned Jack Wilson, and within a very short time, I had 3 generators to take down to my family, Leeds and Grumble. That just goes, you know, not only to Jack, but it was the generosity. I had asked a few people for help here, and they were more than willing to pitch in and give a hand. So thanks very much for that. The Bonnechere Manor Auditorium has been mentioned by Don Goulet. What a wonderful facility. For those that have been in it, it's made the life of the residents, the staff, family councils and family, and our elected, as we attend events, are so much better. It's been a great facility. Expo 150, what can I say about that? Bob Sweet, the chair of that group, had a vision. And I have to say, when I became CAO in 2010, Expo 150 was a little scary. It was a humongous event. And again, but you know, we kind of channeled back to our previous events. We had a great group of volunteers and staff, and I think that was such a remarkable event. I don't know, was it 40,000 people we ended up with, Bob? But there were a lot of cars, and most of them were backed up on Highway 17. So it was tough, but it was such a wonderful event, and I think it put us on the map once again, probably in the biggest way since the plowing match. I want to thank Dave Darch for, Dave's back here. Dave did an excellent job on the community sponsorship on that Expo 150 event, so thank you for that, Dave. Renfrew County Place, another great facility. It's kind of an early community hub in the county of Renfrew. We now have the OPP that have built a structure on our land, so that was a really, I think it's a very excellent structure and facility. Now, some boring things. Strategic plan, asset management plan, financial management plan. Those are wonderful documents, and I'm sure you're all going to run home and look them up online. But they really are great documents, and they will put us in good stead for the County of Renfrew for years to come. So, the one other thing that I'm very proud of is the relationships that I've built at the County of Renfrew. And not only with department heads, with elected, with frontline staff. I feel that I can walk into any facility in the County of Renfrew, and I sometimes do, and I chat with any of our employees, and the rapport that I'm able to establish with them is really, it's rewarding to me. So I've been really proud of that. During our strike here a few years back on Ontario Works, they were picketing our building here. And of course, we had to go through every day, and they like to talk to the CAO, of course, so they got to know my vehicle. They got to hold me up for a few minutes. And I talked to them, and on one occasion I brought them coffee, and I started talking to them, and lo and behold, the strike's over. 3 weeks later, maybe I'm driving home to Cobden. It's pouring rain on the 17 highway, and my tire blows. So I pulled over, managed to pull everything out, got my tire off, and I got it back on. But 2 people pulled in. They recognized my vehicle and pulled in. Well, they were 2 people from Ontario Works that I got to know during the strike. And they said, Mr. Hutton, do you need any help? Can we help you out? And I said, well, do you have any coffee? But they didn't have any coffee. And we were just joking about that last week. So, I mean, I'm very proud of that the culture here, and you're able to relate to the employees. In terms of thanks, I want to thank our elected officials, each and every one of you. We had a huge turnover last go around, as everybody mentioned, but you've been excellent. The support of not only me, but our staff has been phenomenal. Same to you, Warden Murphy, past Warden Sweet, and past Warden Emo. I did invite Don Rathwell. I was hoping he was here, but Don didn't make it. So past wardens, thank you. All of our elected officials, again, thank you very much for your support. Department heads, you've been incredible. You're a great team. Each one of you are experts in your own right. Our frontline staff, some of them are out in the lobby, some of them are in the back seats. We have a phenomenal staff, and that's why County of Renfrew is such a good place to work. My family, mom, brothers, and sisters who supported me throughout my career, thank you. My wife Tracy and her family, thank you very much for the support. Rose, Paul mentioned Rose. Yes, Rose is invaluable, Paul. She's been a great help these past 8.5 years. I kind of think, for those who like MASH, Colonel Potter and Radar O'Reilly. Well, I go like this, and Rose said, yeah, you need to blah, blah, blah. So it's like she knows exactly what I need before I need it, and she knows what I'm thinking. So Rose has been a great asset and help to me these past 8.5 years. I want to thank the social committee and all staff who have had a hand in this event. I appreciate it. And I also want to thank council for taking their time out of your meeting today. Last but not least, Paul. Paul roasted me a little bit, but I'm going to be a little nicer to Paul. Congratulations, Paul, on your appointment as CAO clerk. I think, as I mentioned before, you bring a common approach to a lot of common sense, and I think you'll do well in the role, and you've been very helpful to me these past 8.5 years. I have a few bits of advice, though, that I wrote down over the years. You sit before all of council, right in front of all of council. It's a hard place to hide. Control your body language. Smile and wave. Cool under fire. And remember, turning red will not help you understand the procedural bylaw. Timing is everything. Be a leader, not a boss. Ask the hard questions. Eaton's doesn't tell Sears their business. Does anybody recognize that from my family? That was a saying in my family for many years. A closed mouth gathers no foot. Build relationships first, business second. And this is really another Renfrew County one. And I've had to change a word for the occasion, but once the crap is out of the horse, it is hard to get it back in. I don't know if MJ's smiling back there, but we've heard that a few times. So, in any event, thanks very much. This has been a wonderful day for me. I'm really looking forward to my retirement. I appreciate all the support over these past years and the friendships that I've developed all around Renfrew and Renfrew County. Thank you very much.
Jim. I understand that lunch is in the Pine Boardroom, so I think what we'll do is we'll ask Jim to take his family down first. And please enjoy your lunch, and we will reconvene at 1:30.
Thank you, Ty.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Hope everyone had a great lunch. Please be seated. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Weekly if he could introduce our delegations this afternoon, please.
Thank you, Madam Warden, members of council. So we have three individuals at the back. If I could ask you to come up to the front. So the first individual is Mr. Merv Beckstead. So just a little bit of background on each of the individuals, if you could come up. So Merv resides in Renfrew. He began working in 1957 and held various accounting positions in the electrical utility field. In 1967, he worked at the City of Sault Ste. Marie Public Utilities Commission as the treasurer and the chief accountant. In 1970, he became the Commissioner of Finance and Treasurer for the City of Nepean, and in 1979, he was appointed to the Chief CAO's position for the City of Nepean. In 1992, he worked at the Regional Municipality of Ottawa-Carleton as the Chief Administrative Officer. From 2000 to 2007, he was an investment advisor with BMO Nesbitt Burns, and he was the founding president of the Canadian Cancer Society Nepean Unit. Sitting next to Merv at the back is Donna Anderson. Donna resides in Arnprior. In 1984, she joined the Regional Municipality of Ottawa, Carleton, and Human Resources and as the Senior Assistant to the Chief Administrative Officer. From 1990 to 1995, she was the Chief of Staff to the Mayor of the City of Ottawa and Project Manager for the construction of the new City Hall. In 1995, Donna began Donna Anderson and Associates Consulting Services, Human Resource Services Management. From 2002 to 2012, she held progressively senior roles at Accreditation Canada. In 2013, she returned to her consulting practice. She was called upon regularly to collaborate with Accreditation Canada International and to support international clients, provide strategic advice and guidance, as well as conduct standards reviews and accreditation/quality readiness assessments. She currently sits on the boards of directors for Arnprior Regional Health and Hospice Renfrew as a member of the respective executive/governance committee. And of course, last but not least, Karen Lainhart resides in Renfrew, worked in management in the Ontario Nurses Association in Toronto. We never crossed swords, did we, Karen? No, we didn't, okay. In 1989, too young? I'm too young? You're too young, okay. In 1989, moved to the area and became the owner of a small general store in the township of Renfrew, Matawachin. 20 years experience as a municipal councillor, 2 terms at the old township of Griffith and Matawachin, and 2 terms and then a municipal council for the township of Greater Madawaska, and another 4 terms for a total of 20 years as a municipal councillor. She's retired in 2014, retired from politics and moved to the town of Renfrew, and she served 3 years on the board of directors for Renfrew Victoria Hospital. So in terms of having a panel and a volunteer panel, it's indicative of these individuals' backgrounds in terms of them giving back to the community. So I give you the remuneration panel.
Thank you, Bruce. Madam Warden, choke on my words here. I'm used to saying mayor or chair, not warden. And we've met my colleagues and appreciate the opportunity to just comment on our report, which has been filed with you for several days now. I had the pleasure of working on the report that was done in 2014 as well, and it's nice to come back and see what has happened to some of the work I did previously. I also like to thank the staff for their cooperation and assistance, and anything that we needed to carry out our work was made readily available to us, and I'd like to thank the respondents to the questionnaire that staff circulated. We had face-to-face meetings and reviewed their comments as well, and received input from other sources as well. Just to briefly highlight it, you've had the report. Our research revealed there were really 3 main issues to deal with. One was the workload, the excessive, if you can say that, regulations and new legislation coming from the province of Ontario, and the added responsibility that it placed on members of council to, first of all, to receive it, understand it, read it, and then take positions on implementing items that were legislated. Secondly, this one leads to the other because that has increased the workload by a major factor, and members of council that we spoke with and members of other councils that spoke with have all commented that the workload has gone way up, increased, possibly in part because of the regulations and legislation, but also in part because of the internet and you people are available now 24/7, whether you really want to be or not, and that's a major factor in serving in public life. The third item was that the compensation was considered inadequate for the responsibilities that being a county councillor hold. That was pretty well thought through, because each one of you are elected somewhere else, and this is added responsibility. And then with the federal budget of 2017, which removed the exemption for income tax on 1/3 of the salary, it has an effect on the bottom line of councillors' compensation. We tried to address all of those things, and we relied on information from AMO, one part where they estimated that in a December 1st report, 2017, that an Eastern Ontario county with 17 members of council and a population in excess of 75,000 it would cost about $75,000 or 1% on the tax rate. Those stats by an Eastern Ontario county with 17 councillors and 77,000 or more population sounds very much like the county of Renfrew. In reviewing with our peer group, we found that Renfrew is number 2 in population, but number 5 in compensation. And if you look at the statistics on a per capita basis, even with the recommendations that we put forward for the year 2019, Renfrew County in 2019 will be in 3rd place of our peer group, and no increases have been projected for them as yet. So that is comparing 2019 for the county, which we recommended, to 2018 in our peer group. One other point to make is that this matter has not, the downloading by the federal government has not really captured a lot of attention, because the major cities in Ontario, and this is a Canada-wide initiative, but the major cities in Ontario in the past 2 or 3 terms have adjusted their salaries, and in part of their adjustment was to get into the OMERS pension plan. We are not recommending that you be part of the OMERS pension plan. And that satisfied the major areas, so it's left to the smaller jurisdictions like Renfrew and the various counties that a few of the major cities are still doing it. Brampton is one, but they're all studying this, and there are results floating around as to what needs to be done for 2019 and forward. There's some other matters in our recommendations that are really housekeeping that were drawn to our attention by staff that you could change just to simplify the administration of the bylaw to some extent. Other than that, I don't really have anything else to say other than submit for questions if you have any, and I'd be pleased to try and answer them.
Thank you so much, and thank you to the entire panel. At this point, I'm just going to turn this over to Councillor Staff for some comments.
Thank you, Warden. Thanks for you. I think the process today is a chance for people to ask some questions and get some more information. At FNA, requested that we send it out to everybody in advance and get some feedback. There seemed to be some confusion over that, and as it turns out that there was a limited response to it. So the intent now would be for people to have some discussions today after hearing the report, give it some thought, and then feed back to Bruce's office again any final comments that you have. I'm sorry about the confusion at FNA, but people at FNA thought they had done that, and the others weren't at FNA. There was just a little response. We need to get feedback from everybody. So then we'll bring it back next month to FNA, because FNA did not make a recommendation this month either, and they should make a recommendation to council. And we'll do that in October, and then resolve it, make a final position at council in October.
Thank you. So now I'll open it up to questions or comments. Okay, so everybody is going to submit their thoughts, feelings, concerns, worries to Bruce's office? Yes, Councilor
Just make
Scott.
one more comment, because Jim and I discussed this, it would be helpful when they would come by email, so that Bruce's office gets it in some advance notice and they can collate it for us.
Yes.
Okay, so if you're happy with everything, send an email saying no issues, and then we know everybody's accounted for.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, and it's been a pleasure and experience to deal with my colleagues in presenting this report, and our recommendations are before you. Good luck. We will not be seeing you again.
Sorry, Councilor Wisniewski-Moore.
Thank you, sorry. So congratulations to the team and well done. We appreciate you doing all that work for us. The only comment I have is I was the warden in 2007 and 2008, and I totally agree with what you're recommending. Nobody in this chamber knows what it's like to sit in that chair until you do. The amount of work and effort and responsibility is overwhelming. I enjoyed my 2 years, but I knew the responsibility that I carried on my shoulders. So I know to my colleagues that sit here, Mr. Eamon and Mr. Sweet, and to the present warden, it's a lot of work. And I think that you have done justice in trying to compensate the warden for the kind of work that that person in that chair does. So congratulations on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
If I may. Just to the members of Florida County Council and members of council, when you send through any of your comments or observations, one of the nice things about the report that's been done is there's a total of 16 recommendations. So when you send a comment through, if you could identify whether or not it's related to a recommendation 12, or recommendation 1, or 2, or otherwise, what Debbie's going to do is create a table that provides your feedback from you as individuals. So if you don't have any concerns on 10 through 16, I'm not looking for any input as opposed to you being specific to what it is you want to highlight. It'll just make things more efficient on our end. So that would be the first observation. And then the second observation was just from a staff point of view. Thank you to the panel in terms of your effort and the time that you spent on this. I know there's been a number of meetings and we've gone through a lot of discussion. Just thank you from the staff point of view.
Thank you.
Agreed. Yes, thank you for volunteering to do this. I'm sure it took a lot of hours and a lot of effort, so we really do appreciate it. All right, so at that point, I will turn this over to Chair Stack for the finance and, oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Reinhold.
Thank you, Warden. I just want to be clear, so we're to send these back to Bruce or to the chair? Bruce?
To my office.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, Councilor Emo.
Yeah, is there a deadline or a timeline? I'm sorry, I may have missed that. For the response back to you, get them ready for FNA.
I don't believe we set one. So the date for FNA is? So it's 19th of October?
So we're going.
A week prior to that. So if we could look at a calendar for a moment?
Yeah, it would be
efficient for
the 10th.
The 12th is the Friday before the...
So as it stands right now.
So FNA is the 23rd, sorry.
So, okay, hang up. We were just discussing that earlier, that is actually the day right after the election. And we were wondering if the members of FNA would mind doing the FNA meeting on the Friday prior, which would be the 19th.
I have a meeting on the 19th.
In the morning?
Yes.
Nobody else has an issue with the 19th?
Peter, Tom?
Peter's not on FNA.
Oh yeah, sorry, Tom, sorry.
Thankfully,
I meant Glenn, sorry about that.
It's Councilor Sweet, too.
And Councilor Sweet just stepped out. Are you okay, Doug?
Am I okay?
Fine.
Yes? We did have a meeting, but I guess we don't, so yes, I'm good.
I'm okay.
That's okay. I mean, go ahead if I'm the only one, but I do have a previous meeting with the Board of Health, and that's my responsibility.
does that mean Michael's there as well?
Michael doesn't sit on the resources committee.
All right, so then if we're going to change it to the 19th, then the Friday before that would be
The 12th.
the 12th. Right, so does that give you enough time to?
So no, 12th would be sufficient for us, and what we will do is we'll have Debbie send a reminder out, okay? And we'll just kind of flag you as a reminder for the part of the process, okay?
Everybody's good with that? Okay, as long as that gives your office enough
It
time.
does.
Excellent. Sorry for that little bit of confusion, the day after the election might be a little.
I think it's appropriate.
Don't out.
You're so cheeky today. All right, well, we just need to make sure that Councillor Sweet knows when he comes back in the room. So,
He's not busy, don't worry about it.
don't bother him with it. All right, Councillor Staff, take it away.
Thank you, Warden. Now for the highlight of the day. We, your Finance Administration Committee, wish to report and recommend as follows. Number 1 is the summary and council remuneration. 2, the council remuneration panel, and we just discussed that, so everybody knows where we are there. 3 is the annual service banquet, and it's for October 11th, the 18th at 6 o'clock, dinner at 7 sharp. Please make an effort to try and attend that. I know around October, that time will be kind of busy, some of us, but new council orientation is number 4. It's scheduled there for January 16th and 17th. 5 is the FCM media release. 6 is the AMO news release. And resolutions. Number 7 is resolution number FACC 180999, moved by chair, second by committee. The county council approved the 2019 budget guidelines as follows. First, projected annual levy increase of 2.6% plus any current value assessment weighted growth. Second is a restriction in the use of the levy increase to only 2.5% per year of operating expenses. 3, new debt issued for projects in excess of $3 million. And further, that the cost of living COLA increase for non-union staff under employment bylaw 1 be set at 2.5% for 2019. The background is there. 8 is the bylaw to appoint a CAO and bylaw to appoint a clerk. Resolution number FACC 1809-100, moved by chair, second by committee. The county council adopt a bylaw to appoint chief administrative officer to define the duties thereof at the next session of county council, and therefore that the county council pass a bylaw to appoint a clerk at the next session of county council. And the background is there as well. All of which is submitted by myself as chair, committee members Doncaster, Donegal, Murphy, Peckett, Robertson, Sweet, and Wisniewski Moore.
Thank you. So we'll go back. Information item number 1. Number 2. Number 3, the annual service awards. Number 4, new council orientation. Number 5, FCM. Number 6, the AMO news release. Number 7, resolutions or budget schedule. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Love.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I'm just wondering why the Finance Committee has decided to step away from the long-term financial plan and go with an annual levy increase of 2.6%, and if this is just for 2019, or is this going forward? And then finally, further to that, if there will be some analysis done to ensure that we understand, or the next county council understands the impact that this potentially could have on our tangible capital assets and our asset management.
Thank you for that. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Foss, please.
How's that email going,
Thank you, and through
Did I catch you?
Warden, at our Finance and Administration Committee meeting, we brought forward the resolution which was consistent with the long-term financial plan, which was essentially 3% on the levy plus weighted CVA growth, and all of the elements that have been there for a number of years. That recommendation was changed at the Finance Committee meeting to that which you see today. We had not conducted any analysis about the impacts of that change or what the change would mean on the 10-year plan or even on next year's plan. That was really the decision of committee in that meeting.
Councillor Love?
Then supplemental to that, I'm just wondering, is that analysis going to be done and presented with the budget? Because this seems to me, this feels, I have no concern with reducing the levy amount if there's some evidence that that's something that we should be doing. And I know we've had some issues where there seems to have been extra money gained and we've had some good results in our savings that we're doing. But without the evidence, to me, that's very concerning that we would pick a number. And that might be the number, but I'd just love to see that evidence, and I'm hoping that that work will be done so that when the budget is presented, the next county council will have the full benefit of that analysis in order to make that decision.
Councillor Staff, I think would like to respond.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jeff, I'm trying to get in there before you put you this one. Yeah, there was discussion, and you know, I'll refer to my colleague Mike in a minute because I'm sure he wants to comment. But there was discussion around it. In fact, there's been some positive results financially in terms of tendering. You know, there's been excessive government grants considerably above what's in the plan, and we had those kinds of discussions around that stuff. And our recommendation to the county council was this, because of course, when you went to your budget workshop day, you know, the process and the information you're looking for, an analysis, I'm sure for that day Jeff can bring that to you, but that's where the final debate will take place. But you know, the ratepayers are responsible for this. Taxes are an issue in all of our communities, and the reality is there's been significant differences in the last couple of years, so that was the essence of the conversation. And I know Mike was fairly strong, and I agree with him, and he may want to comment.
Mr. Hutton?
Thank you, Chair. Just in terms of the one part of the question about what are we doing in the subsequent years in 2019, the resolution just covers 2019 in my mind at 2.6%. I believe that's what Finance intended. We'll have to do some analysis of that, of course, for 2019, and then on a go-forward basis and see what it does to our long-term financial management plan.
Sorry, if I can, yeah, I forgot that I wanted to comment on that. This is every year it's going to be up for discussion and review, as we said, so this is 2019.
I apologize, I missed that part of your question as well. Councillor Donahue, you're good?
Thank you, Madam Warden. I appreciate the question. This is, of course, as we have routinely discussed at this time of the year, all 4 of the years that I've sat here, and then we discuss it again in January. So this is the target. I think it was important to set a target. Often we have heard by the time budget rolls around when we worked all of our budgets towards the target. So I think everybody's in the room. I know that we've had certainly Councillor Keller read. I think we're at the 2018 budget, so they're familiar. Certainly with 2018, less so, I'm sure, with 2017. And I brought forward that the initial long-term financial plan that had been discussed in the previous county council did in fact call for 2.28% plus the real growth. And then basically by the time that this council first took their seats, there was identified a pretty significant gap between funding and obligations moving forward. I have discussed, brought forward that the last 2 budgets that there have been significant advancement made towards eliminating essentially that gap. We discussed at length in the 2018 budgeting process that there may very well be expenditures on the horizon that had not heretofore been anticipated that may be coming, and that may very well be the case. And if they are presented to us at budget this year, we certainly will have to come to terms with how we appropriately fund any of the expenses required in the county of Renfrew. However, at this point, it's it seems certainly appropriate to set as a target 2.6, which still does exceed the 2.5% maximum ceiling that is the target for departmental growth, thereby providing 0.1% towards the long-term financial plan in addition to the, don't forget, it's in addition to the real growth that has been absolutely allocated to the long-term financial plan. In the 4 years that we've been here, don't forget, there was 1 year, I think the total levy increase was 5.25%. I think it might have been close to 4 of those points actually went to the long-term financial plan. So we have had some significant address towards that gap, perhaps even towards eliminating that gap. I know that there are expenditures on the horizon, but this felt very much an appropriate time to set a target to work towards.
Thank you, Councillor Love.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I don't have a concern with changing the trajectory per se. I just would like to have some good solid data and analysis to back up that decision, because it was a difficult decision for this council to say, oh, well, we're gonna have a 3% tax increase every year, right? That was not an easy decision for us to take. If we're changing that trajectory, then I still need, whether it's going up or down, I still want to see that analysis so that I can then say back to my ratepayers, this is why, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it. So I'm not objecting per se to this number, I just want to see the analysis, and I think that's what the next county council will want to see, so they too can have a comfort level with it. And I didn't see any analysis in the actual agenda package, and I had looked to see if anything had been done. So it's not that I'm objecting to it per se, it's like, show me the reasons, right? Why is it 2.6% as opposed to 2.7, 2.5? I don't know. It seems a bit arbitrary to pick a number. So I just want to see the analysis, and I think anybody sitting in these chairs would want that in order to ensure that they're doing the best they can and that they are acknowledging the stressors our taxpayers are under, but at the same time, they're not shortchanging the work that we've done over 4 years to get us on a good solid path towards being able to look after our many, many assets. So that's why I'm expressing the concern. I'm hoping to see that then in the budget process, to see that analysis, and certainly that's a discussion that can be had. And the other thing that kind of gave me a concern as a result of looking at what we do have here is just how high inflation was. So that it will be difficult for staff to come in at 2 when inflation is running at 2.5. So I just want to see the numbers, and I think anyone sitting in these chairs would. So that's the reason I raised the concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eno.
Yes, I agree. I was going to raise the inflation factor, Councillor Lovejoy. I would respectfully suggest it might be good to be providing the analysis if we could include a line that shows the original 3%. I think no one in this room is blind to, we have a new government who since June 7th has been obsessed with fixing Toronto's ills, whether it's uploading subways or any other number of projects. And I think that's going to cause some financial strain. I understand from some of the comments that we've done well in terms of receiving grant funding, but some of our plan does rest on getting a significant amount of provincial and federal funding on a go-forward basis. I'm not sure that's going to be there, so I think we would be cautious of us to take a look at both. Today I'm not opposed to the 2.6 idea. I don't know what I'm going to be like in January once this government has been in place for 6 more months. If they're rooting around looking for efficiencies and more subway money, I'm a little bit worried what that means for us in the interim. So I think it would be prudent to carry off with both if possible. I recognize the strain that might cause your office, Mr. Foss, but unfortunately, I think it makes sense for us to ask that.
Thank you, Councillor Stack.
Okay, I agree, but I think that analysis also needs to show the history from the time of this. The grant money, I think, was 500,000 was put in each year. Let's see what we got each year. Look at where the surpluses have been in terms of the early contracting. That side of the equation is just as important as as the impact going forward. Because I agree with you, Peter, and I keep saying the next spring or early summer before we really understand where this government's going to take this. But if we think the residential tax base is going to make it up, we're crazy. Yeah, you know, I mean, there isn't room there, so we have to keep our focus and our pressure on the feds and the provincial government for that. And sometimes we're just going to lose and things won't develop the way we would like them to.
Thank you. Anything further? So I suppose, yes?
Sorry, just to say that I was going to ask Jim, Paul, you know, for next month's meeting, we can prepare that kind of information, you know, for at least for the month of November, you know, to give you some time to, because we've got the 18th or 19th, whatever it's going to be now, it's got an agenda. But if we could bring that to council at least for November, we'll have that information long before your budget workshop day. And you'll notice I said your budget workshop day.
Right.
I'll be watching it.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Foss would like to speak to this.
Thank you, Warden, and through you to council. So as part of the budget schedule that was included in your package today, you'll see that there's a fairly busy calendar of events and steps in the process for us all leading up to a budget workshop toward the third week or so of January. Some of the early on steps in that process is the actual submission of our 10-year capital plans. And those of you around the table who have involvement with your own municipality in asset management plans and capital plans recognize that even though we look at this on an annual basis, priorities change and emergencies pop up, and there are shifting of resources that need to take place. And so those capital plans that are so important for us to be able to look at the long-term financial plan have not yet been submitted to my office. And so to be able to look at this process adequately, we somewhat need to follow that particular process and ensure that the data that I'm using to do a forecast of the long-term plan is the data that I'm waiting on as of today. There certainly is no doubt in my mind that we will have that long-term plan available for you for the January meetings or for the budget workshops, etc. And what I would propose, Warden, if it's agreeable to council, is I'll have a number of scenarios. And so I'm just writing down some of those suggestions that were made today to ensure that we understand what is 2.6% over 10 years and what does that look like. What does it look like for 1 year and then going back to the default of 3 years? I'll look at the history of what the plan was and what our actual experience was. And I might even kind of create some other alternative scenarios for council to consider. But just hoping that council will understand the magnitude of the work that takes place in trying to pull all of that together without the benefit of the current 10-year data in front of me. So that'll come very soon, and we'll all get very involved in the process using these guidelines, but all heading toward January committee meetings and budget workshops.
Thank you. I think that would be extremely helpful. Thank you so much. Councillor Stack.
Yeah, and, you know, because I want to be fair to Jeff, and maybe we had some discussion about this. So there's, you know, November's my last meeting, so and I knew things were busy before then, so I thought we'd go back. Is that feasible for you, or because December it won't happen, you know, and you know, and maybe the budget workshop when you actually get the crunch, I guess, and I just want to, you know, be upfront about that in terms of the information and the timing for it, you know. So is even the preliminary stuff, you know, we don't want to add workload to this process, you know, with being late in the fall and December being a very restrictive month. We want to do do it right. So if the time isn't there for November, then the target should be the budget workshop in my mind. I just, you know, Jeff, we're looking for you just to be candid and say so.
Yeah, your thoughts?
Thank you, Warden. So in response, I can certainly bring to the November meetings some estimates, but they would be estimates based on the plan that was presented to this council in January of this year. But I don't have the benefit of any updated data. So there are some significant issues that are before us on the capital side. So some of the things that I think were mentioned at today's meeting that will have challenges for us in an updated plan are the issues like County Road 51 and the Petawawa project. We talked earlier today about a new potential for a new fire communications system, and some of those estimates at $1.5 million. We talked about earlier on the Eorn cell phone project, that's $1 million out of capital. There are significant issues that are before us. There's a Pembroke property study that's taking place that has significant capital ramifications. So all of that data needs to be embedded in sort of the refresh or the new look of the long-term financial plan. So I can certainly do some analysis based on the data that I have, which was really before you in January of this year. But I believe we will really have to wait until I have updated data from all my departments to be able to have a fresh look at that in January.
Councillor Scott?
Yeah, so to me, you know, from my position as chair of FNA, I think we're asking you to do double the work for no real benefit. You know, it's up to my colleagues around the table, let's wait for the workshop to get the real facts and then to be debating reality instead of estimates, and we're going to distract from the whole budget process, in my view.
That's exactly my concern, is that we're going to be doubling the workload on our staff at a time that they have a timeline. Councillor Love.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I'm perfectly good with that. I want to ensure that that analysis is there for the next council when they're making that decision. And having some options presented, because we don't know how many of us are going to be sitting around this table. We have the experience of this 4 years, but having that analysis, having options presented is going to be critically important for them making decisions going forward. And that's all I'm asking for, is that there will be that then and that they will have everything at their fingertips. And I really like Councillor Emo's suggestion that of providing different options, and as Mr. Foss said, possibly some things we haven't thought of as well. So I'm very happy with that, quite comfortable with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Donahue.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I agree with everything that's been said with respect to the process going forward. One of the things I'd like to see as an option also, as I have said here on more than one occasion, the November before I took my seat here, just 1 month before I took my seat here, the previous council had approved a long-term financial plan that called for a 2.28 levy increase in addition to real growth as a long-term financial plan. It was only 5 months, 6 months later, 5 months later, when it went from 2.28 to 3. That was entirely based on our inability to meet our long-term capital plan. So even though we've now combined them into both our operating plan and our capital plan, then part of the analysis I want to see is what's our scorecard on how we did in addressing that gap that was the fundamental change from 2.28 to 3. And I think that that's going to be absolutely necessary. It is certainly what I have based a lot of my comments with respect to how we've been budgeting. Since I've been sitting here, we have, I think, concluded each year with something in the order of a $2 million surplus. So I think that that is definitely a legitimate request, that how we have addressed that $13.5 million gap, how we have managed on that, and it's certainly my conjecture that we have done very well on that. And my concern is, and I expressed this in 2017, in the midst of very favorable economic conditions, we did not change. And I do not dispute that we may be on the cusp of much more challenging, but what I had expressed in 2017 is in not taking advantage of this now, the next thing we're going to hear is, well, now we can't possibly, because now it's become challenging. So if we don't respond when we're making good inroads, then we're left here. So I do not know, given the unknowns, where this is going to lead, but I felt that it was an appropriate thing to make some attempt at returning to the 2.28.
Okay, I think that we have a plan going forward, and Mr. Foss can bring us some interesting data during the budget workshop. Everybody's good? Good. And finally, number 8, the biological appointed CAO and the clerk.
So we should take a recording.
Let's do a recorded vote. Oh my gosh, can you imagine if the recorded vote, the electronic one, worked at his very last meeting? And the irony of that.
The spirit of dance.
I wish it would, but I don't want to spend another hour on this.
I know, right? I'm telling you, an abacus goes faster. All right, the report as a whole. Can I get a mover, please? All those in favor? Excellent. All right, and bylaws. Who's got bylaws?
Moved by myself, seconded by Tom Peckett, that the bylaws listed on item 12 and attached here too as Schedule A on the County Council agenda dated September 26, 2018 be deemed read 3 times and passed.
Thank you. You've heard the resolution on the floor. Any issues, comments, questions?
That's the last time that Mr. Hutton's going to ask me to make those motions.
Thank you, Jim. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? I don't think so. All right. We have no notice of motions. We have no written motions. Do we have any new business today? Councillor Doncaster.
Thank you. I didn't get my hand up. So just, I guess, briefly, an update from FCM. September 11th, 14th, committee and board met in Annapolis, Royal, Nova Scotia. So as the federal political parties get ready for the election in 2019, so is FCM. So FCM will be putting briefs together at advocacy days in November, where groups of FCM members will meet with approximately 200 members of Parliament, parliamentary assistants from all parties. We will be putting these things forward. And that's something that FCM focuses on each and every federal election. So, and making sure that all political parties are getting the same message. One of the big topics that flowed through a number of committees was the legalization of cannabis and the fact that municipalities are on the front lines of this, and that we need cooperation from all levels of government to ensure that that there is funding, the funding tools available to municipalities to cover off increased costs. And these funds can easily be coming from the excess revenue that's an excess revenue sharing scheme, or however you like to word it. Reliable broadband was on the agenda again, and so we will be lobbying the government and all parties moving forward to not only maintain the, I believe it was $400 million that's been committed to that now, but in addition to that, an additional $100 million annually to make sure that broadband in rural areas of this country is upgraded and maintained. There was updates on the federal infrastructure plan and the $180 billion that's been committed over the 12 years. And more importantly, that that money's made available, but that we as municipal partners with the other levels of government are given the abilities of prioritizing those projects that we feel are important and not be dictated by other levels of government on what projects we should be doing. Quite often we see funding come out for recreation facilities, and you can get money to build a new arena or a new swimming pool, but you know what? I don't necessarily need a new arena or a new swimming pool, but I need to fix a water plant. So, municipalities having the ability of prioritizing those projects is very important. And I guess one thing that wasn't particularly FCM's, on FCM's radar at the time, but I started a very good conversation with the Environmental Issues and Sustainable Communities Committee. And we were talking about green energy and renewable energies and the definition of that and what the working groups were using as the definitions of those. Leading into the conversation about some of the work that CNL is doing right here in Renfrew County with the potential development of small modular reactors. And I started this conversation and then it went on for well over half an hour. I was sitting with and talked with the president of the Association of Municipalities of Nunavut, who represents 25 communities in the north. And those 25 communities, 100% of their electricity is generated by diesel generators. It's very expensive, and it is producing almost 25% of this country's greenhouse gas emissions. Small modular reactors, there's a study going on, and small modular reactors, I don't think they've fine-tuned this yet, but are probably not more expensive than the way they're producing their electricity today. And it eliminates all of those greenhouse gas emissions. So it was really exciting. People were excited about it. And one of the things I highlighted is that this technology may be coming out of Renfrew County, and that leads to the amount of money that CNL and Renfrew County are putting into not only the economy of CNL putting into the economy of Renfrew County, but what they're putting into the economy of Ontario and the economy of this country. So it was an interesting conversation, got people thinking, and I think I'm going to try to advance this a little bit further, and I think I'll be coming back with some more information for County Council to potentially put some resolutions in front of the Board of Directors for next year. Thank you.
Thank you, that was very interesting. I see Councillor Stack.
Yeah, just to follow up with them because at the CNL environmental stewardship meetings, there's a fair amount of discussion about the direction of CNL and those opportunities to take that nuclear power to the north. It's pretty exciting when you go over the details with them.
Very interesting. Anything further? Councillor Donahue.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I wanted to comment that last evening was Take Back the Night march in Eganville. It was sponsored by the Women's Sexual Assault Center of Renfrew County, though it is not specific to sexual assault. It is domestic violence also, violence against women. And I was very pleased. This was the 26th march in Renfrew County, first one being in 1993. And for those of you who may not be aware, initially it was exclusively women participating, but I think certainly that they have now provided that following. I was very pleased to have marched in support at the rear of the group, and I think it's appropriate, given that so much, most of the violence visited upon women in our society is the males in our society, so it was very pleasing to me to be able to participate in that and highlight that and underscore that this is an ongoing and continuing issue that needs to be addressed. It's very much in the media these days, and in fact, while this is certainly the most extreme example of it, it is no less still fresh that it was only just slightly over 3 years ago that we had the incredibly tragic circumstances visited upon our community and the tragic deaths of Carol Cullen and Natalie Warmerdon and Kuzik, Anastasia Kuzik, and I think it's important and appropriate to say their names again. Certainly that is at the most extreme, but it is something that is occurring every day still in our community. So I was thrilled to have been able to participate in that event last night.
Thank you. Councillor Wisniewski-Moore.
Thank you, and I too, on September 22nd, that is the anniversary, and I believe it's 4 years And I attended an event supporting Bernadette McCann House to honor the 3 victims of that tragedy that happened so 4 years ago. So I too am very proud that it's 3. They told me it was the 4th, so I'm wrong, 3 years. Okay, sorry. Okay. Anyways, I went and it was wonderful, and it's wonderful that the communities are still making sure that we're all aware of what happened, and we have to remember what happened. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and I totally agree with Councillor Donahue. It is absolutely worth saying their names every time we get a chance, and never forget. Anything else in new business? Councillor McKay and then Councillor Rattle.
Thank you very much. I just want to extend my thank you to the members of the staff of County Council. The paramedics were phenomenal during the challenges that we were facing in California. And I can't even say enough thank yous about it, because they checked on all the vulnerable, they went and helped the residents when they needed help, and they also made a presence and made the presence known, so everybody knew and had a comfort zone that the paramedics were there to help us through any challenges that would have built up during the time. And I also want to send in a thank you to the Public Works Department, because they went out of their way to keep the road clean. We happen to have a county road going right to the village of Caledonia, and it was just so fabulous to watch the work that was being done. And they chewed up the trees and this kind of stuff. So I just, again, I'm going to stand up because I want to show you my respect, without a question, because I really do have a lot of respect for everybody here. Paul Morrow was there for a complete day, and Jason Davis, thank you, was also there helping out, and our ward, Jennifer Murphy, came, so it was just wonderful. And so my appreciation and my thank you very much, and I think it was overwhelming, and credit to our existing CAO. He hasn't quite met yet, because I think the power behind the support came from a higher, through a management style, and through all levels of management. So thank you very much for that, very much. I don't know what else to say other than thank you.
They really did an outstanding job. It was sort of funny though to come upon our soon-to-be CAO and Jason Davis on the KMP trail. They said we get about 100 meters, we couldn't do any more. It just goes on and on. So apparently we need to buy you guys new chainsaws too. But I couldn't agree more, Mayor McKay. The paramedics, their showing down there was exemplary, and the roads department, it was very, very impressive.
I absolutely agree, and I want to thank all the council, the county council, and that we have such marvelous support from this area.
Okay, are you responding to this or?
To this.
Okay, yeah, and then I'll.
I just think it should be recognized as well too that, in recent months with our relationship with the city of Ottawa over emergency services, but our teams around here as well, and Chief Mike was there, the first guy on site, and took control, and and was recognized by the city, but I think it needs to be acknowledged as well here.
True story. Congratulations to you and your crews, Mike. Okay, Councillor Reinwald.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I just wanted to bring to people's attention that apparently after 2019, the Highway 17 is going to be no longer going to be patrolled by and supervised by MTO. And I think we all know that for a few years we did not have MTO supervising the patrol areas in 17, and things got rather hectic and hazardous out there. So an individual had come forward in our municipality who was very concerned about it. He also was with the MTO, but he had written a letter to Mr. Yakubuski about his concerns and about what may happen again with the full contracting of of the snow plowing, including the management of it. So he touched base with the councillor, Hoyle, who was in that ward. We brought it up at last week's council meeting. So we're planning on sending a letter out to Mr. Yakubuski about our concerns, and that our council have fully supported this endeavor. So I wanted to pass this out to the other members here in council, and I would like to pass it forward once we have it written up, because I'm very, very concerned about this. This is our only pathway, east and west of us. It's our only pathway in Laurentian Hills, and anything west of Petawawa, basically. So there's no other way to get here or there, and the roadways up that way are more treacherous with more hills and temperature variances. And so we're very concerned about this. And I just wanted to let council know about it, that we'll be sending something forward in the near future.
Thank you for that. I'm sure we will all keep our eyes peeled. This is a concern for every municipality in Renfrew County. Anything else in new business? Seeing none, all right. We are not doing this closed meeting today, apparently. Just so that everyone knows, it's been such a long and wonderful day that I'll ask Councillor Wisniewski-Moore for the confirmatory bylaw.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Moved by Janice Wisniewski-Moore, seconded by Tom Peckett. The bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the County of Renfrew at the meeting held on September 26, 2018 be now numbered, deemed read 3 times and passed. Bylaw number 10818.
Oh, we should have said you not to get that one.
Yes?
Thank you. You've heard the resolution. All those in favor? And I will now entertain a motion to adjourn. Councillor Donahue, Councillor Wisniewski-Moore. Anybody opposed? All those in favor? Great work today.
So this is where we take our hats off, Mr. Hudson.
I know. Right? That's it, Jim. That's your last.